Welcome to the Vertex podcast, where we discover the humanity in artists. I'm your host, Yo-Yo Cam. I'm an artist and designer based in Stone Mountain, Georgia. My work covers anything from design and video games to murals across the globe. I'm sitting down with creative professionals of all types each week to get more into the human side behind their incredible work. I get into their life stories, I get into their challenges, and I get into what fuels their creative drive in hopes to show you that your journey might be similar and that your dreams might be closer than they appear. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get into it.
Yo,
What's happening?
ooh,
What's happening?
not much, not much. Just chilling, Was working on some comic stuff for just like a second ago and all that stuff. But very excited to be here. Really excited to chat. So,
Oh yeah.
how are
Yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah. I'm doing pretty good myself, man. I've been pretty tired today, but this conversation has been on my mind for the majority of the day, and it's been like super exciting. So
Sweet.
I'm just
Yeah.
ready to get into it. Um and so like, before I was doing a little bit of research about you, just to get some good questions to ask. And man, there's something that like we talk pretty
Pretty
often in
frequent.
art chat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like in a group setting, they're always so you can only get so far in terms of
Right.
like the surface level of a conversation. And so I've just been anytime I've been telling people that I'm gonna talk to you, it's always with excitement that like we'll be able to, just dive into like just deeper topics than the kind of stuff that we talk about in the chat.
Right. Man,
Yeah.
I'm excited too. I was talking to my wife earlier, and I was just like, oh man, I always have such good conversations with Cam. Like we're about to, you know, yap it up. We about to have some good conversations. Like never a boring conversation with you. So mad
Absolutely.
excited.
Absolutely. So one question that I had just in general, um, very curious because I know that anybody is who does art, of course, has been like inspired by it in one shape or another. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm curious to know, for you, what is your either your introduction to or your earliest memory of cartoons and like comics and drawings? And is there any of that that you still hold close to this day? Like, is there anything that you saw a long time
Mm.
ago that like that's still in your wallet? Like as a, that's still like that little locket picture that you open up and look at.
Oh, 1,000%. Okay, so let's see here. I guess like art origin point for me, like probably my like earliest memory I have like ever as like a conscious human being was seeing The Lion King in theaters
Mm.
as like I was like probably like what like 3 or 4 when that movie came out. Like I was remember going with my dad and going to the movies and seeing that movie. That's like AJ's first memory. So I feel like kind of just like art and cartoons and how it connects with people and whatnot. It's like always been a thing. I think like the I remember like watching Toy Story in theaters and being like, I want to make cartoons, like not necessarily understanding like what that meant. Like, it wasn't like I was like, I need to make cartoons and I was like drawing. I was just like, I want to be a part of this process. Like this is hidden for me. You know what I mean? Like little like 4-year-old, 5-year-old AJ is just like, I don't know what this cartoon stuff is, but like I want to be a part of it. Um so I feel like I've always been like kind of just like really attached to cartoons from the jump, like it's just always been my thing. But like the first book I remember reading was Dr. Seuss. Like when I first just like reading clicked in my head, I was reading like Hop on Pop.
Mm.
So like, I feel like a lot of like art and cartoons and comics and all that stuff has just been like a lot of firsts for me, like over and over and over again. I'm as you can see, like right over here, I have all these like manga. That's in my manga bookshelf, and on the top is like all of One Piece, and then right below it, it's like all of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. and I was a huge Dragon Ball Z fan. I feel like you look at my art and you'd be like, oh, this man likes Akira Toriyama. Like, I feel like I'm not, subtle about it. You know me, I love me some Dragon Ball. As you have mentioned in our chat, I have defended Vegeta many a times,
Yeah.
as like he's like, we were Kane's Kakarot. Like, like I like Vegeta's, you know, Vegeta's got that angry Hotep energy that we all need. But yeah, so like, I still carry like all this stuff with me. I feel like that's something I've been really trying, or like something I've been working on a lot in my own art. It's just being unapologetic about my influences. I always feel like everyone's always like, I want to be original and all that stuff. I want you to look at my stuff and be like, oh, AJ must have been reading Naruto today. Like, it's very obvious. Like, like
Yeah.
kind of thing. So, yeah,
So
so I think
then
it's just fun. Mhm.
So then with your influences, is it because like did they stick with you because they were early, or is there something about the particular things? Like is it something about The Lion King? Is it something about Dragon Ball that was so influential, or was it just that it was the first time and you were like, wow.
I think it's like, once again, I feel like it's like a bit of both, Like, I
Mhm.
think it's because it's like so early on, it's just kind of just like foundational, or like, it's like who I am as a human being. I'm like, yeah, of course, like cartoons, that's what's up. Like, it's all I know. But then I think it's also just kind of like, I have this big theory that I feel like good art is art that connects to other people. It's
Mhm.
like the way that we are able to communicate beyond ourselves, like get out of our own heads. Like, you're like, I feel like when you listen to a good song, you're like, oh, this emotion's hitting. Or if you're like read like a good comic or a book or something, you're like able to experience emotions that are like beyond your own emotions, or help you understand your emotions in a way that you couldn't beforehand. And so yeah, I feel like it's just kind of like, for me, art's always just something that just kind of hit with me, like no matter the art form and all that stuff.
What kind of emotions did The Lion King bring out for you whenever you were whenever you were
Ooh,
so young?
I feel like a lot of awe. Like I feel like just going to the movies to me is like an experience. I love it. That's like my like. If I leave the house, it's either go to a bookstore or it's to go to the movie theater or get food. Like that's it. So I think it's just kind of like just being in that experience. But I remember seeing it as a kid and like seeing like Mufasa die, and as a kid, especially like so young. I don't really think it was like the thing that taught me about death, but it was definitely like oh, this is sad. Like, oh man, I actually really feel for Simba, like because I'm with my dad while I'm watching this movie, kind of thing. So
Sure.
yeah,
Teaches that empathy and stuff really early too, huh?
yeah, yeah, it's important. I feel like especially like in this day and age, I'm trying to wait until later before I get on my media soapboxes, but like, I think it's like kind of like why AI doesn't worry me in the long term, because to like try to connect and like express yourself is human. I feel like that's like the most human thing you can do. Trying to communicate with other humans. And that's why we make art and whatnot. So even if like I'm always worried about the job loss when it comes to AI and all that stuff, but I'm not worried about people won't make art anymore, because I'm like, they're gonna get bored with this toy and this gimmick and whatnot. And I feel like that's just like what I always try to shoot for with my art. I want you to connect with it. I want you to laugh. I want you to like feel some empathy, that kind of thing. So
Sure. Hmm. So then, like, how this is something that's been a little bit harder for me,
right.
because
Hmm.
I draw things that are so superficial, like they're just like cool.
Yeah.
And that was me growing up because I wasn't really in touch with a lot of my emotions and being able to
Hmm.
express those things. So I just focused on technical skill and I just wanted to draw stuff as cool as possible. I'm just gonna draw this really cool dragon. I'm gonna just draw this really cool sword or the samurai. But
Right.
but then I have all these emotions and all these stories that I want to tell, and I can't. Like it just doesn't happen. I can't.
Ah,
Like I'm having a
don't
bad
say
day. I'm just
that.
gonna like draw this
You,
dragon. So like
yeah.
how does
Mhm,
one go about like uh how would you say that? How does one go about
mhm,
putting in that emotion or being able to tell that story? How do you go from like a memory or a feeling
mhm.
into a show or into a book, a comic, or a drawing?
Oh, it's a practice. I feel like, you know, like something we it's like hard to realize is that like usually whenever we're like reading a comic or whatever, that's like someone's like very polished attempt to expressing themselves. You don't see all the nitty gritty and like how it gets there. So I feel like to me it's just like if you want to get better at expressing yourself and putting those emotions into it, you have to just practice it. You have to just like own up to it and be like with anything with art. Like, you have to just be okay with like looking at it. And then you go back and you review it, you'll be like, did I like convey that enough? Like, did that hit the way I wanted to? Like, did this idea carry across as well? Just like how you practice drawing cool stuff, which like by the way, you do such cool stuff. And I feel like it should not be underplayed. Like sometimes you just need to draw a cool ass dragon because you want to draw a cool ass dragon. Like, and there's something wrong with that. I think you know, maybe that's just like the artist way. Like, shout out to the book, but like also just like I think we're always just like in this pursuit of being like, oh, I should draw more cool ass dragons because I'm like too whiny or whatever. Like, oh, I should be more whiny and draw less cool ass dragons. So I feel like you'll find the medium and you'll find the middle and you'll find a way to do it. It's just trusting yourself and doing it because I feel like every artist that I feel like is really good at it, the thing I've noticed is that they just do it. They don't think about it. They don't overthink it. They just are like, I'm gonna draw this thing, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, kind of thing. And so, yeah,
I've been
uh,
trying to dive into it a little bit. Just I try to draw the cool stuff, but then it's connected to something that I want to express. So
yeah,
I recently did a painting where it revolved around it revolved around a particular theme,
mhm,
and so I'm like, okay, well, I did a scorpion stinging something, and I was like,
yeah,
it kind of nods towards situations where they're like the sting of dissatisfaction, the sting of like disappointment. And so I did like a scorpion. And like that's been kind of a middle ground for me that I've been trying to play with. But in
mhm,
terms of storytelling, trying to like I guess I'm looking more for like instructions or directions because I'm that type of person that'll
right,
give me the 3-step process to doing this because like I'm like just do it. I'm trying to do it and like it's
right,
coming out all right, but it's not exactly what I'm looking for. But I'm seeing people have such amazing stories,
yeah,
and especially in comic books and in like novels,
right,
and it's like, man, what is that? What's that like? Is there a process to it? Is there a 3-step process, or is it truly something that just has to be like felt through
oh,
vibes?
man, that's a good question, Cam. You killing it with the questions, man. I love it. But like, I feel like for me, the way I usually kind of come up with a story, it usually just kind of draws from like a want. Like I'll just be like, and sometimes that want it will just be like, I want to draw a goofy ass story that involves like my coffee bot dude and his friend trying to deliver a dog. That's literally, I'll just be like, what's that thing? And then I'll just like kind of sketch it out. Like, because especially with comics, because it's a visual and a narrative medium, I tend to kind of go like, let me get these funny images out of my head as quickly as possible and whatnot, or like funny or cool images or whatever. Like, let me draw this idea because I'm sketching or whatever. And I'll be like, all right, cool. So they get a dog. And I'll just be like, all right, now where are we going with this dog? Like what's the funniest, interesting thing I can do with this thing? Or like what's gonna crack me up? You
Mm.
know? And then I feel like, like somewhere along the process of like trying to figure out what happens next and next, I'll start noticing like a theme. Like I'll just be like, oh man, this seems just kind of just talks about how like people are really shitty with dogs, or how they like dogs get away with a bunch of stuff or whatever because they're super cute, and that seems to be the thing. And I'll just be like, all right, cool, like let's explore that. And if I'm lucky, I'll like strike like a really good gold mine, and it'll be like, oh, actually, no, the dog represents your father, and this is all just a metaphor for like masculinity and all that shit. But then sometimes it's just like, haha, that was really funny, like, and I just move on. I feel like something I really try to do anytime I finish a project is I do like a post mortem. Like
What's that?
a post mortem is a way for you to like, or it's like when you like review something that you finish. Like let's say like I finish a comic, I'll be like, all right, AJ, like what worked well today? Like, and I'll be like, oh man, the composition was really good, or like, this like really cracks me up. Like, even though I've like rewritten this joke like 5 times, every time I write it, or like rewrite it, I'm like laughing hard and hard. So that was good. And I'll be like, and then at the same time, you review things that like didn't work. You'll be like, oh man, like this comic took me like 8 hours to draw. Like this should have been like I need to like speed up my process and be more decisive and all that stuff, or like stop getting caught up in the weeds and whatever, like
Mm.
those kind of things. Like being able to review and critique your own work in a way that's like productive and positive, it's good. And like something I've been practicing more is trying not to be so negative on myself wherever I feel like I fall up short, because I feel like just like everyone, I needed to like be perfect the first time I do anything. Like if I start drawing, I'm like, I need to draw this character perfect the first time. But like, that doesn't help. It's like a walking contradiction to literally what I just said. But usually whenever I get out of my own head, I'll be like, oh wait a minute, like press myself to get this thing done, finish it, and then like review like what worked and what didn't work.
Mm.
Because that's how you get better. I feel like I think about people who work out a lot. They record themselves like doing their moves and all that stuff, so they can be like, oh wait, actually I'm kind of leaning, or like my form isn't good, or I'm going too fast, like after they did their workout. That's like, I mean, that's another form of post-mortem when you think about it. So
Yeah, it's like mirrors all over the gym for that reason, so
yeah.
you can be checking your form the whole time. And that's interesting. Interesting. You said
Mhm.
once you get out of your own head, you're able
Yeah.
to kind of get into it a little bit more. Cause I can definitely be that way too, where I'll be like, it needs to be nice all the time. And
Yeah.
even if, especially if it's in a sketchbook, if it's in a sketchbook because you're like, you want your joints to be all aesthetic, like the
Right,
people,
right.
the people on the Instagram reels and the TikToks, and oh, draw
Oh
with
my god,
me. And, I drew every
those
day for 30 days. And
those
it's,
people get on my goddamn nerves. People be like over there, they'd be like, they're like, this was just my like 5 minute sketch. And I'm like, no, it was not. Like you inked an entire spread. That at least took you a couple hours. Like, what are we
for
doing here?
sure.
Like,
For
but
sure.
like, but like I think even in that case, it's just good to have multiple sketchbooks. It's like something I've been practicing more like last year, this year, it's just having sketchbooks with different purposes. Like, I have my travel sketchbook that I'm like, this one fits perfectly in my bag. I can take it with me. I can put my camera, my sketchbook, and like some pencils in a bag and go, and all that stuff. So I always have that stuff with me. I have like a sketchbook where I'm like, today I am just drawing squares and circles because I gotta go over those fundies
Hmm.
and all that stuff. I gotta do my reps. Gotta like, like that's like the one where I'm like, no one will probably see the light of day of this, and whatever kind of thing. And then, I haven't gotten to the point where I have my Instagram sketchbook, but like that's the thing, where I'll be like, oh, this is my 5 minute sketch, and it's like, AJ, that's a portrait of Denzel. Like you liar, like what are you talking about, bro? Like, like but like but that's I feel like just I don't know. I'm trying to, or I'm not trying. I hate using that word. I'm working on making sure that like me and my art are working together and not against each other. Like making sure the choices that I'm making help me make better art, so I can convey these ideas, so I can connect with more people, especially in a time where it feels like people are putting in billions of dollars to keep us disconnected. And keep us separated and whatnot. So, I think it's especially important to make sure that the things that I'm making and the things that I'm saying are like connecting with someone, even if it's just like, oh, ha ha ha, that made me laugh. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna, I don't know, laughing is super important these days.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that's super important because like I don't
yeah,
think like unless you're I guess with the memes, the meme culture and stuff, people laugh pretty
yeah,
quickly. But I feel like a lot of times the memes can be gimmicky, like
yeah.
you laughing within the first second or first 3 seconds or whatever. And
Oh,
it's like,
oh, it's like that. I'm a dance. Like they're like,
yeah.
that's the punchline. They're like, here's me dancing. Like you're like, AJ, how do you write a comic? I'm like, well, first I look up the latest TikTok dance and I do it, and then they're like, I love you. Like yeah. So
And then they get into it. And it's
yeah,
like I don't know, I think it sucks that 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 kind of satisfaction is often it's gone just as quickly as it came to you. Like
right.
it'll be like it's funny, then it's on to the next. You don't forgot what you even saw just a second ago. You
Yeah.
know.
I mean, well, that's the difference between content and art. I feel like the difference, like, content is juice, art is sauce. You know,
Yeah,
like,
the juice in the sauce. Yeah.
yeah, it's the sauce exactly. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and then, like, don't get me wrong, content is great. I wake up every morning and I send people a gazillion memes and whatnot because it's so much easier than just like texting them. I'm like, oh, ha ha ha, look at this person dancing like while they're fighting a gorilla, and that's it. Like, but I also know that like good art is gonna last. Like, that's the sauce. Like, I feel like I've seen some art that still I think about to this day. I surround myself with art, in my house and whatnot. And so,
Yep. Yep. I think I saw a video about this. They were talking about this in a game
mm-hmm.
design sense, where they said, you know those ads with that one game where like the people are shooting and it's like they go left to right and like it's like you shoot in one side and like you get more dudes or you shoot in the other side like and they play the
Yeah,
game bad on purpose because then it makes you want to go and download it so you can play
it
it right
it
and like
drives me up the wall, Cam. All right, like, and I know what they're doing, and I sit there
yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, like yeah, I have never seen these ads whatsoever. I don't know what you're talking about. I have no strong feelings about them at all. Yeah, like,
Oh man, it's
no, I
so
do not.
man, those games
Yeah.
they get on your nerves, or at least they get on my nerves because
Oh, they
they
do.
are games that like they're designed around retention
Yeah.
of like your attention. It's not even about having fun. And then what happens is then you go and play a real game, something
Right.
with some story, and it doesn't immediately give you, all the rewards and all the games, and all the power-ups. And then you don't even want to play it because you're like bored in
Right.
the first 5 minutes because you're like, well, dang, something should have exploded by now, or I should have got 100 points off of this or whatever. And it's like, mm-mm. It's because all those content games, like these game designers don't even care if you're having a good experience or not. They're just like, we just want you to click on the app. We just want you to keep playing. And I think it's interesting that um like I had kind of blurred that line mentally for myself, where it's like I'm
Mm,
thinking that this is kind of what the games should be like, but it's like, nah, like I really had to kind of tailor my
right.
like how much of those types of games I'm playing versus like other games. Because other games that are like super good, I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't even have the patience for it. Like I had been streaming The Last of Us Part 2, and
Yeah.
like I hadn't even like it took me a minute. Like I had to kind of stay locked into the game. Had I not been streaming, I don't know if I would have kept going with it. And it's not because the game is bad. It was just because like it makes you work for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
No,
is
I think that's why I like fighting games, because it's such like, I mean, it's like an arcade game. You just pick your character and just like duke it up. Let's go. Like, win, lose, and you just keep going. Because like I feel like those kind of content games scare me. I'm like, I have too much ADHD to try to like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, this is gonna mess me up. Like, this is gonna, you know, get me out of house and home and whatnot. Like, but like, yeah, I feel that, man. I just like, oh. like it sucks that like we're now at a time where the most valuable thing you have is your like attention and like your time and where you're putting it. You know, like because like yeah, I think about that a lot. Like especially with the whole AI mess and everyone's just like, the wording that they use. They're like, no, anyone can be an artist. And I'm like, yes, anyone can be an artist before that shit too. Just like with anyone right now who does stuff is because they just chose to put their time into this thing. But I feel like the people who are doing like the AIs and like all the like multimedia, social media stuff are just like they just like are purposely trying to just take what little time we have left and like hog it so that they can make a money selling us whatever. Like I always joke about how my Instagram ads just be like yelling at me. They'll be like, oh, your T levels are too like low, you little beta cuck. And I'm like, what, dude, it's like 7 in the morning, like why are you fucking yelling at me? They're like, you're losing your hair.
Yep.
uh, no woman's ever gonna love you. As I'm like laying in bed with my wife, I'm like, what's going on here? Like, like
Yep.
what am I like looking up that's making you think I feel this way and all that stuff. But like, it's just frustrating. And I think that's something I've been really practicing on just with my own art. So I want you to feel rewarded. Like I did those frog illustrations the other day, and I was just like, the thing is, I hope that for like the 2 seconds that you look at it, hopefully you see like something or two or three things, and you're like, yes, that was good. Keep scrolling. Like I know I'm not gonna beat anyone, like or like for like more than like a second or two of your time, but I want to make sure that like those 2 seconds are like worthwhile. And if I'm like lucky, maybe one person will be like, oh yeah, like that frog drawing made me want to draw more frogs. So I drew some frogs. And I'd be like, hell yeah, let's go. Because I
Yeah.
always think about how when I see good art, it makes me want to just make good art. Like I was talking to a friend the other day, and I was like, nothing makes me more hyped to go work on my own stuff than when I see like one of my homies making something. Like whenever you drop something, Cam, like you always stay dropping gold like when you post. And I just be like, damn, him out here posting shit out here like, painting on walls, like, fuck, I need to go out here and go like, I need to work on my comic. Like I wanna like reward you for hyping me up. I hope that I can make something that'll hype you up.
For sure.
Like I still am using the sketchbook that you drew something in the last time I saw you. And like when I show people my sketchbook and they're like going through it, they always stop on your page and just be like, man, this is really good. And I was like, that's not me. That's my boy Cam. Cam drew that.
Yeah.
Like. So like, and I think that's good. And then it just makes me be like, damn, I need to draw more pages. Like Cam out here just shooting threes. So, that's how.
Man, I appreciate that. I be trying, man. I be doing my best. But
Yeah, not trying. You're
yeah.
doing, man. You're literally doing the thing. Like oh man, like I said, I still think about the first time we met at Lightbox, like what was it, like 2 or 3 years ago, and all that
Yep.
stuff.
It was
Yeah,
2022.
yeah, that's wild. Oh man, time's going by so quickly. And just
Hmm.
like seeing your art then, and I was like, man, this Cam is like great. Like this is some good stuff. And then I feel like I turned around and then you were just like, oh no, like you just like put that like Dragon Ball Z. You're like, this ain't even my final form yet. Like I was just taking the weighted clothes off. Like, I'm about to rock needles real quick. And then it's just like you haven't stopped from there. And I'll just be like, yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, man. I'm
So
trying to keep up. I'm trying to keep up
man,
because
man, I can keep up
shoot.
with you.
Yeah. I think that's like
Yeah,
the
no.
important part though, like being able to
Yeah.
have people around that are also doing the same thing. Because then it
Yes.
it does exactly that. Like I do stuff that inspire you, you do stuff that inspire me, and then we both keep working, and
Yeah.
sometimes people don't have that, just coming
Yeah.
up or just learning. All they really have is just like themselves. They might be the only person in their family that does anything creative, or
Yeah.
they don't know any of, maybe they're like an adult and they don't have any like groups or meetups they can
Yeah.
attend, and so they're like they're pretty much all they got. Them and like the YouTube tutorials, and sometimes it's not as
Yeah.
fun if the people that you're like surrounding yourself with digitally are like way better. Like if you just started drawing
Right.
and then you're going online and you're looking at tutorials and these people are like just crushing it. You're like, it's great, but it doesn't feel like I can, you know,
Yeah.
quite, go back and forth. And then it's like a one-sided thing too. Like on YouTube, you don't normally go back and forth with the YouTuber. Like you can comment, no respond, maybe, but it's not like y'all are just hitting each other up, you know.
Right. In the cesspool that is the YouTube comments. Yeah. But like, no, I hear you. And I think community is super important. I know that was like a big goal of mine last year. Where like, like every year I try to come up with like a theme where I'm like, like what do I want out of like my focus gonna be this year? And like last year it was community. So I was like real big on just trying to like build something up because like I had just moved to LA like the year beforehand, and like the pandemic kind of had like died down, or people are going outside again and whatnot. And so I was like, I need to build stuff up because this is how you get better at art. This is how you become just better as a person. It's just that community and whatnot. I kind of am hoping that as these social media accounts kind of like are crashing and burning and whatever, people find ways to like form community again. Like I love Discord. I mean, as you know, like that's how we mostly talk. It's on Discord, and I think that's just like been really great for me of just being able to be like, oh yeah, here's like these other artists who are doing something that I want to do or doing stuff in their own thing. We're all like on similar levels or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I think
Yeah,
it's
that
it,
community's great.
yeah, I think it's it's like we have something like that in the city too. Here in Atlanta,
Hmm.
we'll have high contrast, and every Tuesday they meet at a studio in the city. And it's like, I mean, all varying skill levels, all varying people, professions. Like, we all love art, of course, but there's people who are teachers, there's people who are tattoo artists, there's people who are muralists, traditional, just like canvas painters, and they all just come together and like just talk and draw and just work on whatever they're going to work on each Tuesday evening. And so it's nice. Sometimes it's like a huge, gathering, and it's like dozens of people in this same room, and then other times it's like just a couple of people showed up this week, and it's like a little bit more intimate between the people. And it's definitely something like to look forward to, and um
Hmm.
being able to get that creative input from other people is really important too, especially from somebody who's like doing what you want to do is really important.
Right.
It's
Oh,
not just
that is. I feel like that's the only way to like make it and grow is you find people who are doing the things that you're doing and understand how they're doing it so that you can like start to develop your own process. I think that's part of it too. Is that like you have to just like because I feel like I do that all the time. Like I will just ask what I feel like is like the stupidest question. I'll be like, Cam, how do you draw squares? And you'll just probably be like, what in the hell? Like, what the hell is AJ talking about? And I think for me, it's like my way of like understanding how you approach something, and then I'll like try to reverse engineer it into my own process. Like I'll be like, all right, so Cam just starts at the top, and he goes down, and he goes over, and he goes like this. Instead of me going like doing the sides and then doing the top and the bottom, I'll be like, I should figure out why Cam does it that way because like maybe there's something there that I can learn, or that kind of thing. Like I love watching speed paints and stuff like that. Like that's like I'm bored. What am I gonna do? I'll just turn on a speed paint. I'll usually put it on mute because I'm real particular about my music, and I'll just be like, "Oh, these music choices aren't good," but that's on me. That's like no shade to anyone. That's just like, I'm like, yeah, I want to watch you paint this Adventure Time thing while I also listen to Kendrick at the same time. It's probably an ADHD thing and all that stuff. But like, I love to see how they'll like approach it, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, like this person will go from grayscale to color," or this person will just like draw out the shapes and then just like figure out the lighting as they're going, kind of thing. And so, but yeah, there's always something you can learn.
Yeah, I think that's how I taught myself a lot about
Yeah.
painting murals in the very beginning. because I would
Hmm.
just watch. It wasn't like an actual tutorial, but I watched Saturno, the creator, and he was doing some murals, and I mean his work is phenomenal. And I was just
Hmm.
looking at one of his process videos, and he wasn't even explaining anything. He didn't even talk. It was just music in the back, but you could just see him kind of going. And I was seeing like even just the angle that he had the can and like how close he was to the wall and like certain swipes and like it's like, oh, that's how he's pulling these types of effects off. Or like, oh, he starts with this kind of shape, or he goes in with like you were saying, like with the gray first, and it's cool to be able to like break those types of things down, and that's I think ultimately how you find that like
Yeah,
artist style that everybody like looks for, because it's just like a big smoothie of all the little bits and pieces you grabbed from
yeah,
everybody else over the
yeah,
years.
exactly. It's like that's literally it. Like it's like you're trying to do like it's like if you're trying to be a basketball player and you're like, oh, I want to be like Mike, or sorry, I'm aging myself. I want to be like Michael Jordan because if I feel people be like, who are you talking about? I'm like, you're like, I want to be like Michael Jordan. So you'll probably like watch like old games and try to practice what he's doing. But like the thing is, like no disrespect to anyone who's trying to do basketball, is that you're not going to be able to do what Michael Jordan does because you are not Michael Jordan. Like you can only do what you can do and all that stuff, but you can learn from it and whatnot. And then you just like I said, it's just like you pick up more and more as you're doing it and go along. Like I'm not going to be able to draw like Akira Toriyama. And it's not because I think I'm a bad artist or I'm not talented or whatever. It's just that like Akira Toriyama is Akira Toriyama, but there are things that I can learn from it. And I'm also gonna learn from other people and draw from this and this and that and this. And so and I feel like that's what makes it like really invaluable as an artist, because only you can do what you can do, you know.
Yep. Yep.
So
And it's like that too, like just like how you said, I mean, you'll be able to draw things that nobody else can draw either,
exactly,
you know. And then as you lean into that for yourself, I think that you'll start to like that even better than what like who your influences are. Like, you'll still admire their work,
I
but
agree.
you'll enjoy your own things better because it's like this is exactly what I wanted. It's not this is so cool, but this or this is so cool, but
Yeah,
it would have been all right had they done this differently. It's like this is exactly what you're looking for, and you're able to push it
yeah,
as far as you want to. So I think that kind of stuff is like that's
all that.
key, and really
Yeah,
like developing that craft and that style. It's like just knowing that it's you. Just like you said before, I really liked what you said too when you said
mm,
having your art and yourself work together instead of fighting each other
yeah.
because it can definitely
That's
feel
my
like a
one.
fight.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's my one smart thing I'm probably gonna say in this whole podcast. So clip it. But yeah, I feel like that's something I've been trying to practice more because I feel like I used to just like fight myself so much, like unknowingly, for like a magnitude of different reasons. But I feel like it's just like I feel like when I really think about it, it just boils down to me feeling like I had to do things a certain way as opposed to just like understanding how I do it. Like I'll just be like, oh, I'm not drawing this right, like because I don't draw exactly like this other person, and I'll be like, wait a minute, no, that's crazy talk. Like like I'm gonna drive myself insane trying to be someone else. Like, 'cause that's just never gonna happen. That's like the white whale, Like, but yeah. And so now I'm just like kind of like being like, all right, cool. Like, what are my like artistic superpowers, or like what makes an AJ drawing an AJ drawing? Because that's the thing that's going to connect with other people. That's the thing that other people are going to like. No one's going to sit around and be like, oh man, I really liked how AJ was trying to be a Kira Toriyama and failed like over and over again. Like that would be insane. But I know people would be like, oh man, I really liked how AJ drew that like goofy expression, or like this funny thing he said, or like, this kind of thing, you know? And that's where I'm like, oh yeah, that's what makes me me. That's what makes me like irreplaceable, or like whatever, Because it's not that like, because someone's always gonna do something better than you. There's always gonna be someone who can draw technically better than you. There's someone who's gonna draw a wackier post than you, and like someone who's gonna draw a cool action dragon thing better than you can, or like doing like what you would have. But the thing is that like that's like comparing yourself to someone else. And I think whenever I'm just trying to just be like 110% me, I'm never gonna fail. You know, like as long as I am like I can stand by the choices that I make and all that stuff. You know, so that level of confidence is always really important as an artist. And so,
For sure. So
you
whenever, tell me if this is something you can relate to. Whenever I'm
know,
drawing something, I've noticed now that I've started to have different voices in my head, like fighting for different things. And so
yeah,
there might be things of like, oh, we have to make this Instagram worthy. We have to make this, we have to use this as an opportunity to practice fundamentals, or, oh, we have to, make this as colorful as possible,
right.
or, what about this influence or that influence? And it can, that part right there. I know that you spoke about how you were fighting yourself before and then you started
Mhm.
working with yourself. And so if you
Right.
had those types of voices before where it can
Mhm.
feel like things are fighting for your attention, how were you able to kind of harmonize all the voices, or if you even do, or like how do you go about finding, like, turning those inner voices into like a teammate instead of like somebody to argue with?
Yeah, I feel like sorry. I think you kind of hit it right on the head when you're like, oh, turning it into a teammate is really important. You know, I think for me, I try to practice like when it comes to like leadership and like being on a team, it's that it's not necessarily that like you need like one leader for every scenario possible. It's that like on a team, you should be able to switch who's in the lead based off of what's needing to be done, you know? So like I guess in this case, like the way I would approach it would be like, or at least the way I've been trying to approach it is understanding exactly what I'm working on and what is like the intent and purpose for it is, you know? So if there's an Instagram post, then like I know that like that's going to be like the one who's going to take leadership or to have like the loudest voice or the voice I should at least be listening to get this done. If it's like me trying to practice on my fundamentals, then like that's going to be the one that I'm going to listen to. And I'm going to like set my goals and cater it to that thing. You know, I feel like one of the things I noticed is for me, it's like whenever I have too many chefs in the kitchen, that's when I get really tripped up, you know, because I'm trying to listen to like five voices in my head that are trying to pull me in six different directions. And then I'm like, why am I not getting anything done? Why is this not working? And it's like, well, of course it's not. Like, you don't know what you want, you know? So I think it's just kind of just understanding what's the intent behind the things that I'm working for. You know, like if I'm posting a comic, I'm like, all right, cool. Like if I'm like working on like my like strip, my comic strip, I'm like, I know that like the goal is to post it on Instagram. That's like the like I am done with this thing. So I feel like so I'm like, all right, cool. It needs to be a certain level of like polished and clean so that wherever I do post it, I'm not like, oh my god, why in the hell did I post this like, you know, rub ass drawing? Like, oh, that's not it. And so you know what I mean? Like, so then I'm like, all right, well, the goal is now to be like, I need to make this a certain level, certain quality that will make me happy so that that voice in my head isn't yelling at me, being like, oh, you screwed up. Like, you should have, like, worked on this more. You should have focused on this thing and all that stuff. But, like, whenever I'm drawing in my sketchbook, I don't really care. Like, I just draw. Like, most of the time it's just me trying to warm up if that's the goal. Like, I'll like draw my sketchbook before I like draw like for things I have to do for work or whatever or Instagram or something like that. And I like or sometimes I'm just like, oh, I need to like get this idea down kind of thing. And so it's just kind of like figuring out like which voices to listen to, which one needs to take charge and all that stuff. Like if I was like coming to you for like art advice, I'm probably coming to you because I see something in your work that I know I could probably get insight on and all that stuff, as opposed to just being like, "Hey, random person, give me like, how do you like this thing?" Like, I'm like, why would I take that person's opinion? Like, as opposed to like, oh, I want to talk to Cam because I know you draw, like you say, cool dragons. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm probably gonna be like, wait, Cam, like, what are your favorite dragons? Or like, oh, how did you approach that? Or like, what were your thought process behind that kind of thing? You know?
Mm, okay, I see. So, are you doing
Yeah,
the same thing when it comes to like storytelling as well? Like whenever you're say like whenever you're in the writing
yeah,
phase of it, are you going to specific types of are you listening to specific voices based on the goals that
hmm
you have as well? What do those different
yeah.
voices look like? Like who's on the cast in that side?
Oh man, there's Goopy AJ who's just like, can I make myself laugh? You know,
Mm.
I feel like that's the one who's just like I feel like if you were to see me sketching out stuff, you'd be like, AJ's crazy. This man is crazy because I'll just be sitting there like drawing, and I'll be like, this is so funny. Like, I'm a genius. Like, and then really, there's always like sad boy AJ who's like, yo, what if we made someone cry? And I'm like, it's not it. This is an Instagram post. Like, we don't need that. Like, there's no shortage of sad things on the internet right now. We don't need you right now. I feel like, there's like, I don't, probably like, like hubby AJ, who's like, oh, I want my wife to like this. Like, she's kind of like outside of myself. She's the one. She's like the first one who sees most of this stuff. Like, I'm usually like, hey, like, I go to my wife like Gretchen, and I'll just be like, yo, like read this like scribble. Is this funny? Is this like in any way coherent? And like most of the time it's not. But like, and then it's always good for her to be like, oh, this doesn't make that much sense, AJ. Like you kind of just like stop just stay here and pick up another idea, and I'll be like, oh, I should fix that. But so I'm always trying to think about that and being like, all right, cool. This is like connect with people. This just make me laugh. This is like, do I think this is cool? Like, am I having fun with this? Because I feel like if I'm not having fun with something, I'll just drop it. And then move on to another project kind of thing. So,
Hmm.
it's that kind of thing.
You know, that's another interesting point too. You said if I'm not having fun with it, I'll just drop it. And I spoke to the Kilamari before, and he also really pushed the importance of keeping it fun. We spoke about how when we're drawing, we'll have like skinny caps. And the skinny cap, or not drawing, when we're spray painting, we'll have skinny caps. And the skinny caps make it to where you can make really clean tapers and really clean, crispy outlines and really just sharp edges. And it can get to be kind of surgical and like very analytical
Mhm.
if you let it, depending on what you're doing. And he's like, yo, I just kind of got tired of it because I wasn't having fun anymore. So he switched, he threw out all his skinny caps and just let it be stock caps. And he's like, that way I can't get a skinny line even if I wanted to. So that way I'm just
Yeah,
able to like keep it fun. And like
yeah,
I've always found that to be interesting. Like I'm definitely one that can kind of get into the nitty-gritty of it. Like that's kind of what's fun for me, but I
yeah,
think like it's important that people do kind of keep those things fun cuz like that's what's going to keep you going anyway. Like you could be making really good
right.
work, but if it's like a pain in the ass every time, you're like, "Ugh."
Yeah,
Like you can't.
yeah, yeah, and I think that's like, yeah, that's just like unsustainable. Well, because I think it's also the difference between like doing like personal art and making and having work. Like work is just like you gotta do it because you need to do it. You got bills to pay, etc. So like I feel like that's always like the end goal. It's just like, did I get paid? Did I get my money? Like, can I keep paying my rent? Can I keep like you know, eating food. Cool. And then I feel like with my personal art, if I'm not having fun with it, I'm like, I can just do something else because I've noticed that it just shows in my work. Or at least like I feel like it shows whenever I'm not having fun with something. Because I feel like just the way I deliver it too, like, usually it's like the end goal for me is like that I post this online. It's usually like the definitive like this is done. I'll just be like, eh, and I'm just like, I don't like why do that? Like why waste my time and your time and whatever posting something that I'm not gonna at least be like, well, you know what? If it gets 5 likes, if it gets 100 likes, if it gets like whatever amount of likes, fuck it, I liked it, like, and that's the kind of thing. So I'm like, I at least gotta have like be having fun with it. I at least want people to, like I said, to like look at it and just be like, man, okay, cool. Like, he might not be able to draw hands, but like, damn, like this motherfucker out here, like, at least knows how to like at least it looked like he was having the time of his life when he was drawing these bad hands or whatever, like,
Yeah.
no, like,
Yeah, I always tell him that friend in particular, Killer Mari, I always tell him like
mm,
his work looks fun and it looks like he was having fun while he was doing it. And I remember an old professor, my first year of college, he told me that whatever you make gets like crystallized into whatever it is that you're going to do. And so
yes,
like if you're drawing with anger, people will feel anger, people will read anger.
mm,
And just like how that happens for the negative emotions, it happens for the positive ones too. And I think that's something personally I've been trying to strive to keep and like strengthen, is that when you look at somebody's work and it looks fun, you're like, dang, this is like
yeah,
playful. This is like
yeah.
energetic. This looks like this is like dopaminergic to like feel and look at. That's pretty cool.
I think it's like great because like I said, I feel like it's just like that stuff conveys. I think about that video I sent you, and that like Japanese artist who was just like screaming while he was painting, and it's like that funny meme,
Yeah.
But like it's so true. Like I feel like those emotions do convey, like, or like they catalyze, like that's the part that you're connecting with because that's like what you're trying to express in that current moment. So
Mhm.
yeah, like
Having to deal with all the different creative voices and impulses and wants
yeah.
and values. I also was doing a little bit of research via mutual friends, and I heard
I'm sorry. I'm like, oh no, who are you
yep, we
talking to,
found you.
Cam?
We found
Um,
you. We found you out. But I heard about a time I heard that there was a time in your life that you did not really have the best connection with your creative self and with your creative
yeah,
voice.
I agree.
And I'm curious to know like what happened there, because um I'm not exactly, I didn't get any details as to what it was, but just that
Yeah, we
your
can
your
talk about
connection was kind of pushed back, or
it.
just
Yeah.
separated. So curious to know like how did that happen? Like what were you going through?
Oh man, oh, how much time you got? Let's see. Like, I feel like a lot of it was just stemming from just dealing with a lot of changes. Because I feel like in this particular moment, I feel like that it was probably mentioned. It was just like a very transitional period of time. Like, like just moving to like LA, just starting a new career in animation, just like really trying to understand what it means to be an artist and grow. And that
Mm-hmm.
stuff's just like scary. I mean, hell, like trying to trust yourself, at least for me, it always felt like making like any decision can be overly intimidating sometimes. You have to be like, all right, like, am I making the right choice? Am I doing this? And whatnot. So for me, I feel like the way I've been working and mitigating that like self doubt is just by making stuff. Nothing makes you feel like you're like proving like how wrong your self-doubt is, and when you finish something or like you make stuff and you're like, damn, I did that, like, yeah, you can't tell me nothing. I feel like before he died in 2016, sometimes you had to be like a little Kanye. You gotta be like, oh, I believe myself more so than anyone else, for the detriment of yourself sometimes. But like, you gotta just be like, all right, yeah, I made that thing, like I drew that character. I did this stuff, like, and I kind of feel like that kind of helps with that stress. The more you do stuff, the more it's just like that voice gets quieter, or like maybe you just get too tired and you're just like, I can't hear that voice anymore because I'm too busy. Like I ain't got time to self doubt or like to doubt myself because I got other shit to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's always a great motivator. You're just like, I ain't got time for this. Like, like I gotta work on like all this other stuff. Like I can self doubt myself. I can doubt myself tomorrow. Like I can do that whatever, because I think that's it. It's just kind of like not giving it the space to like infiltrate, and just being also recognizing that like it's just a voice. It's just like one of the other many voices. God, that makes me sound schizophrenic, but it's like one of the other many voices in your head kind of thing. And I just like, oh yeah, I don't even listen to that. Like, and if I like let's say for some reason I try to do something and I fail, it's a moment to learn and understand like why that didn't work out, like as opposed to just being like, oh, I was the worst and whatever. You'd be like, all right, cool. Well, let's look at this and let's like figure out like why I didn't get the desired result and all that stuff. That kind of helps with like the postmortems and stuff like that. So you can really kind of like logic this stuff out, where I'm just like, oh yeah, well, like my perspective is a little wonky. That means, I should probably do more perspective drills and do book. There's no shortage of art books in my house. So I'm like, I'll be like, oh, let me go back and review one of these, kind of thing and see what new knowledge I can pick up on. So, yeah.
Interesting. You Whenever you were
Mm-hmm.
saying, whenever you were explaining that to me, I noticed you said it was you were dealing with a lot of changes, and you said that
Yeah.
you moved to Burbank and you
Yeah.
got a job in animation.
Yeah.
Was that your first animation job?
Yeah. That was like, I like working on like Craig and the Creek was like literally my first like professional art job. So like, I went from just being like I draw for myself and I like post stuff on the internet to being like, oh no, like you are like in the NBA. And I'm like, oh shit, like I just used to like you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
used to just like feel like I was just like dribbling at home like at the garage or something like that. And I'm like, oh wow, now I gotta like really do this. And I feel like it felt very like sink or swim. I felt very fortunate that the people I was working with were very understanding and just like good at like just like being like, oh hey, like let me help you get these skills and learn this stuff and do this stuff. Like, like shout out to like every person I worked with on that show. Because like I was just very pro notes in that particular situation because I was like, look, this is your good chance to learn from like people who made you want to do art, like kind of thing. So, I'm like, let me learn and all that stuff and kind of thing. I feel like things I probably would have done better is just try to be a bit more confident, but I think that's just like a in general thing I needed to work on, like outside of art, just like in life in general kind of thing. It's just be like, no, you should be more confident. Save it your chest. Like it's okay. Like you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So
Mm. So then, you said that it was like going from just doing it just for fun, going to like major leagues, and I can definitely see how that's like a big like jump just on
yeah.
every front. What were some of the biggest things like that you had to learn over the course of that? I know that you spoke about your confidence, and
Yeah.
are there any other things that you had to develop just over the course of that time period, that initial kind of like breaking in? Can you tell me about how that
Mhm.
even came to be? Like, how'd you go from the garage to the court to the stadium?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, my brain was just like I was just shooting outside, and then some agent was just like hiring you. But no, I think it's just kind of like the pandemic worked into like my benefit because everyone's already working from home, and since I was just kind of like already there, and I feel like people were posting a lot more online. I started posting online and started getting more and more attention. Because like I feel like before I had like an office job, and so and I is it. I just like trying to like learn stuff and do stuff, but I mean, even now, I'm not like a person who posts a lot. You know what I mean? You get a couple posts from me like out the blue moon every once in a while. But I feel like during that period, I was posting a lot more. I would join Discords. I started making friends with people in the industry, like just like genuine friends, of like people who I'm like, I'm interested in this video game, and they're like, I'm also interested in this video game, and then start becoming friends, and you start meeting more and more people, and from there, just like people on Craig saw my work, liked it, like it kind of just like with a lot of the industry, it always just feels like the stars align just right, or like the planets align just right for you to be like, oh, AJ, do you want to work on this show? And you'll be like, yes, yes, I do. And then it works out, kind of thing. And so, but like, I feel like one of the big things I kind of learned was a lot of like technical stuff because, I feel like when you're just making art by yourself for yourself, you tend to kind of avoid the things that you're weak at, Like if you're like, oh, my perspective isn't the strongest, you'll just be like, like, I'm gonna do things that don't involve like having the strongest perspective or like having the strongest volume or like being able to convey volume or like these kind of things. And so you learn on the job, like, oh yeah, I wasn't the strongest in that. And so, something I would do whenever like we would have like long breaks on the show and all that stuff is like I just like saved all my notes and then I would once again it always goes back to the postmortem, but like I would do a postmortem of like my notes and be like, okay, cool, I kept getting notes on this and this and this and this and this and like so I should work on these things. And so whenever I had time off, that would kind of be my focus, and I'd be like, all right, cool, like because now I have time to breathe and figure it out. Let me like try to turn this weakness into a strength. Like I feel like, once again, to keep the metaphor going, like if you are a basketball player and you're recording your games, part of like what you do is you go back and you look at it and you're like, okay, cool. Well, you keep missing from like this side of the court, from this like area. So like we should practice on making those shots so that like that's not like a weakness you have, or like, or like, oh, these dudes are pushing you around. So like maybe we should like work on gaining some more muscles. So, it's harder for you to get pushed around because you're bigger, you got more mass on you and all that stuff. So I feel like that's the big thing I always been trying to do. Is just like, all right, well, if I'm weak in this, then like I need to get stronger in that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So
It sounds like it was a really constructive and productive environment. Would you say that's like accurate
yeah,
for your time at CN?
yeah. No, I got really lucky. Like I said, I mean, like the Craig crew is great. I feel like some of the like, I mean, there's people I'm still, or like obviously like still friends with to this day and all that stuff. That's where like I met like our mutual friend and all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. You're inside me, I know who you are. But like we're like and, like I think it's just kind of like really good to like I got like that level of like just like people who are open to teaching and all that stuff. Because they could have easily just been like, oh, you're get away from me, and so you know, I met like a really good mentor there, and something I always tell people is that I'm like, if you give me the time to like you're gonna give me time to like give me notes or whatever, I'm at least gonna like listen to it, especially if it's like someone whose opinion I value. I feel like that's always the marker, but I feel like if I'm like accepting notes or whatever from someone, I already respect you, kind of thing. So I'm like, I'm at least gonna do it. Like if you were like AJ, if you want to get better drawing characters, you need to draw like 5 characters a day for like a week, I'd be like, bet I'm gonna try it. You know what I mean? Because like chances are you probably know what the hell you're talking about. Like because like you're
Yeah.
doing what I want to do. So why not learn from it? If I learn that doesn't work for me, I will hopefully break it down and try to like understand why it doesn't work. Where I'm like, oh yeah, I just don't have attention span to draw 5 characters today. Like so, but I now know that's like a goalpost and all that stuff. Or I'm like, I should do that, or I can figure it out.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are they want the guidance, but then it's hard sometimes because like you do have to
Mm-hmm.
tailor the advice to your own like personal disposition,
Mm-hmm.
but then you also but then there's a part where it's like you kind of want to just follow through with the thing that they're telling you to do, where it's like, okay, if you're like you need to draw the 5 characters every day, and then you
Yeah.
get up on like day 4 and you're like, smooth on that, but then it's like that that I think is part of the, how am I trying to word this, um it's just part of the process of like kind
Yes.
of it's like the spinach sometimes
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
sometimes
eat your veggies.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like
yeah.
you
Yeah.
need that to be able to grow stronger as an artist, and it's not always fun. It's not always comfortable. It's like learning the fundamentals. Like nobody wants to draw, cubes and spheres and pyramids and all this stuff, but like, it's good practice for whenever you have to do
Yes.
that kind of thing. You'll be glad that you did it.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like how like I always think about this like thing with like algebra. Like when you're like in school and you're sitting in class, and I feel like everyone has this moment. If you're not like a math person, you're like, why the hell am I learning this stupid ass formula and all that stuff? Like when you're like in algebra class, and
Hmm.
then like if you have a good teacher, they'll explain and show you how you actually apply and why you apply this knowledge, where you're like, all right, well, if you need to like figure out how you're going to pay this bill, but you only have like X amount of money, like, well, how much money will you have after you pay this amount? That's algebra. That's literally like, A minus B equals C. Like that's what that is. And I feel like, you know, if you're lucky and you're like drawing cubes or cylinders or circles or squares and practicing perspective and all that stuff, you have to like learn how to apply that stuff and why you apply it. Because I feel like when you don't understand like why you're doing that's why you're eating the veggies and all that stuff, you're just like, this is stupid, and then it's easy to drop it. But yeah, because I feel like that's something too where I've been like, oh, like really learning how to apply the things I'm practicing. Like kind of thing. Like, you just practice dribbling and all that stuff, but you never play a game. It's kind of like, what are you doing? Like, like what are you practice this for? Like, who's this for? Kind of thing. And so,
Mm. So then, is there anything about working at Cartoon Network, like, because for a
yeah,
young artist, that's like
that was the
golden
dream,
gates.
man.
Like that's
That
the thing
is,
for
it
so
really
many.
is, bro.
And
Yeah,
so,
no, I,
is is there
yeah,
anything about that
yeah.
place that wasn't like did not expect this, or like anything that would be like interesting to know that's like it's actually more like this, and it doesn't have to be negative, but just something that like you did not
Mm-hmm.
see, you didn't foresee going into the job.
Ooh, I feel like the biggest thing I didn't foresee going into the job was Cartoon Network like catching on fire and imploding. Like I felt like that was the thing. Damn, that's a good question. Like I kind of knew going in that the industry was like, you know, going to be like really busy. I feel like I always have this joke that it feels like being in animation. You get an assignment and they're like, "That was due 2 weeks ago." And you're like, "I just got this," and they're like, "Well, like."
Mm,
Everyone's just like we're busy now, like, and it's like no one's fault. It's not like I'm like it wasn't anyone's fault. It's just like it's just the nature of the beast. But you know, I feel like something that really took me off guard, and I think this is like I don't know how much of this is just like the industry or how much of this is just like I just keep getting lucky. It's like how much people are willing to like share information, like just like their approach to things. Like I love that. I feel very fortunate that either I just keep getting friends who are in the industry or working jobs in the industry where I'm like, wait, how did you do that? And someone will be like, yeah, I'll show you how I did this thing. I feel like that's something I got really lucky with because I have a really great mentor. I got out of it who, you know, I will message him at random times and just be like, "Hey, have you ever seen this art tool? Do you know what this is?" And he'll like reply back with a video on like how to use the art tool,
mm,
And it's like I count my blessings in that thing. I don't think that would be like every show or every job, but I feel like at least on the shows that I've been on and all that stuff, that's been the thing. Everyone's just like willing to share information and all that stuff. It's less like competitive. It's like competitive in that like everyone's like, oh, I want to do my best, but not competitive in like, oh, I'm not going to tell you how I did my best. You know what I mean? I feel like sometimes people like it. They're like, oh yeah, this is how you dunk on hosts. Like, let me show you real quick.
mm.
You're just like, damn. now I'm gonna do it. Like, so
Man, I always thought that it'd be more competitive in the other aspect, like you were saying, where
mhm.
it's like where they are because it's a company like that's so prestigious, and you think people would be trying to
Yeah,
like keep their keep their secrets and their job and their things, but it's nice to know that they're a lot more open and like willing
yeah,
to help and share.
yeah. And like I said, I feel like I don't know if it's like that, but like every show, I know a lot of it is just that like like Matt and Ben really like handpicked people for like Craig and the Creek. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like they were just like, oh, we're gonna hire anyone. It really did feel like you're like, oh, if you were there, you were picked because they liked you, they saw something in you, and you were just a cool fucking person. So I feel like that's just like one of those things too, where it's just like, oh, and that's just a great environment to learn and grow and really kind of find your footing. I feel like the only thing with Cartoon Network is that it just kind of like, I like got in and then everyone was, or like the industry as a whole was like, what if we just like went through the most turbulent time ever, kind of thing. They're like, what if this all imploded and that kind of thing. So it's like, oh, but like, I'm happy to be here. I'm still keep making good stuff. So
For sure.
I'm very, very much like into all of that stuff. So
Hmm. If we could look in a day, like a day of like that work life, were
yeah,
you going into the office or were you said you're working remote or were you
I was
going
working
into
remote because I came in during the pandemic, so
okay, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like yeah,
So
so
then
which makes me so mad because I wanted that Cartoon Network experience, of everyone being there and whatnot. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
no, so how were you able to like what was a day like a work day like with it being the pandemic? Like I'm sure you guys use some kind of like Zoom or Discord, Microsoft Teams or something like that.
Yeah,
And like what kind of environment did you guys uh maintain over the course of that show?
yeah. It was like kind of like like because it was like the pandemic. I feel like we used to Slack and we just kind of like depending on what kind of day it was. Like if it was a day where something was due, it's usually just like kind of quiet and everyone's just like working on stuff, until we have to go do turn-ins. And then you do turn-ins and you do like a meeting on like Zoom or whatever. Um, a lot of it was just like because it was like everyone's like working. I know at least like for me, I was trying not to bother people. So you kind of wake up, drink some coffee, do whatever you like your morning routine is, and then I had like a list of things I needed to do, and I just like be like, all right, what's the thing that I like? What's the easiest? What's the layup? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's the easiest win I can get right now? Or like, what was the thing I was like half done and whatever, Or like I message like my like lead and just be like, hey, does this look good? Or like whatever, It's a lot of like one-on-one interactions that I feel like it would be than like going in the office where you're like kind of like stumble into people and see who's like in kind of thing. But yeah, it was just kind of like working on the computer, talking, texting, trying to get information when you needed to get it, that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Were you able to meet any of your like childhood heroes? Did you meet any of the MJ, the Kobe's of those?
Yes. Yeah, I met Danny Hines. Like he was a good mentor. He was our I guess he was the character designer director for like the movie and I guess like the rest of the show seeing it out. So I got to meet him. Like I've been a big fan of his work because he worked on Steven Universe and whatnot. Like him and Colin Howard both worked on Steven. Shit. I feel like Craig's just like one of those shows where I'm like, like pretty much like every person in some aspect of someone I like. If I had known of them beforehand, I was already a fan of their work because of previous stuff. Like Matt and Ben were people who I've been fans of their work since I was in high school. Like back when they used to post shorts on YouTube and all that stuff. And I remember being in high school and very arrogantly being like, I'm gonna work with them one day. Little did I know, I like literally like spoke that shit in the tower. But like, so like, I feel like there was a lot of people and whatnot, like people whose fan I was a fan of their work and didn't even know it. Where they'd be like, I worked on Dexter's Lab, and I'm like, what? Or like, I worked on Venture Brothers, and I'm like, what? That's crazy. Like, what the hell? Like, I worked on like Gumball or Regular Show or like Adventure Time, like, so I feel like that was a thing I had to like really work through, trying to go through that like imposter syndrome, which just like being on a team of people who I'm like, wow, all you guys are just like all stars. Like, like here I am, like I said, like, shooting basketball like on my driveway and all that stuff to like being on like the 90s Bulls, I felt like, like where I'm like, damn, I'm on the team. These people are doing the thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so,
Mm.
yeah.
So then I know that you were saying that that was a source of like some imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, what was that kind of process like? How long did that last? And how did you go about jumping that hurdle of the imposters? Like, I'm sure you're like, damn, like how y'all wanted me? Like how? Like what?
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
like what did you
man.
how were you able
Yeah.
to kind of shake that?
But I still have my bouts of like imposter syndrome and all that stuff, But I feel like it's like the voices. You just kind of learn to lie and listen to it. Like, I feel like for me, a big thing is that I was just like, hey, I was on this show. I was on this. I was on, the '90s Bulls team of like Cartoon Network animation. I might have been sitting on the bench, but like I was on the team. I still got the ring. Like, we still like I worked on 2 seasons of a movie and all that stuff. Like, like I feel like that kind of makes me be like, oh, y'all can't tell me nothing, like in a positive sense, like, up to a certain degree. Because I was like, I did that. Like, that's hard. Like I could have easily have failed and drowned, but I didn't. So like, and I feel like that kind of experience just kind of beats out that imposter syndrome. It's like the experience part. Like I like leveled up. Like it's like, oh man, I went to this thing feeling under leveled, beat this boss, got the experience, jumped up like 5, 10 levels. And I'm just like, y'all can't tell me nothing. Like, like I can do it. Like I've done it. So I'm doing it again, kind of thing. And like I don't want to say I'm just sitting here thinking like my farts don't stink or anything, but like I feel like I have like definitive proof that like I can do it. And so I might do it again. Like keep doing it. Like
Mm,
that kind of thing. I feel like it's kind of hard to listen to doubt when you're doing things. Like, when you have like actual proof that you're doing the stuff. So then I just look at that and
yeah. Because
that kind of thing.
you can't deny the fact where you're like, okay,
Yeah,
maybe I feel like I shouldn't be here, but I'm here. That's the
right.
fact. And so
Yeah,
somebody's right.
yeah,
Right?
exactly. And it's like somebody's right, and if it's me down in me, it clearly is not me. Like I always try to think that I'm like humble enough to know that I can also be wrong. It might be rare. It might hardly ever happen, but like it does. Just no, I'm wrong so much. Don't take this like. I feel like I'm thinking clipped like out of context. They're like, look how arrogant he is. Oh, but no. But like it's like that's it. Like the proofs. Like when you do the thing, you kind of just like make yourself undeniable to yourself. Like you're just like, oh yeah. Like anytime I feel like I'm really self doubting myself, I'll like go through my sketchbooks, I'll go through all this other stuff and whatever, and I'll be like, oh wait, no, I can draw. Like, I might just be having a bad drawing day that day. And that's okay. And so
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. That's some good
Some
stuff.
water.
You said that working at Craig
Hmm.
helps it helped with your technical skill. Are there any
Yeah.
things that kind of still influence you to this day? I know that you spoke
Oh,
about like perspective. I know that you said it was a good practice to your confidence. Are there any other skills that we hadn't quite talked about yet that are still pretty important?
I mean, I feel like Craig just kind of like gave me a lot of the tools I still use to this day. Like, I feel like Danny really instilled to me how much of a craft art is, like the way he approaches stuff and just like getting lessons from him and being like, like construction, like just being like, oh, like if this is looking wonky, break it down. Like if this leg looks off, literally compare it to the other leg. Like especially if we're working digital, so you can kind of do stuff like that where you'll be like, oh, are these legs like two different sizes? And you can directly see by just like, you know, lasso tooling that leg and then dragging it over and being like, oh yeah, no, these are two different sizes, and you have to pick which one you want to go with for like whatever reasons. And that kind of thing. I feel like just as a whole, just like Craig really is just a show that was like about kindness and understanding and being empathetic, and then made by a crew that was kind and empathetic and all that stuff. I feel like I really learned that like being a great artist doesn't mean you have to be an asshole. I learned that like being a great artist means that you can navigate with kindness. You can, like we can all win. It doesn't have to just be like, oh, if I don't win, no one wins. And if someone else is winning, I'm losing kind of thing. Like I feel like very fortunate that, like I said, I got to just be on a crew that really inspired me to be the best artist and be the best person I could be. Like I think like some of my favorite things about days where we had turned in stuff is that I'm like, oh, I knew my team was cooking. You know what I mean? I'd be like, oh man, we got to set this meeting, and I'm like, oh, I'm about to eat real quick, and it's like that was great. That was awesome. It's such a very fortunate experience to be like, I'm around people who are just like constantly playing their A game, and I'm like, it makes you want to just step up your A game and all that stuff. And I feel like it, and like learning to have that come from like a healthy place is very fortunate and whatnot. So
Yeah, some people think that
yeah,
the only way is through like hardship or just through like terrible people or a
yeah,
bad work experience, and like it's the toughness that makes you better. And it's like it don't gotta be that
yeah,
way. It really don't.
yeah. Exactly. It's like we can all eat, I want to get to here's like I guess like soapbox number two. I think that's just the like hyper capitalistic mindset that we have right now, where everyone's like, I gotta be a millionaire, I gotta be a billionaire, and like like take the ladder up, like pull the ladder up as you're going up, and kind of thing, and like leaving everyone else behind doesn't really benefit anyone. I feel like learning to just like celebrate other people's wins, is great. I feel like especially like the industry right now is such like in such a famine time right now. Where I'll go to like a party and someone will be like, I got this job. What are you doing, AJ? And I'll be like, oh, I'm not doing anything right now. And they'll be like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, don't apologize. Like you getting money and working on things has nothing to do with me. Like I will eat. I'm a big dude. I'm not gonna go hungry. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? But at the same time, too, I also think that like we should celebrate each other's wins. We should like come to this place of understanding. Like like not choosing not to pit each other against each other is super important. And I feel like that's like something that I saw in practice on Craig.
Mm.
Where everyone's just kind of like in it to make a dope show. And I'm not saying like other shows are like trying, it's like doggy dog. I just know from my own experience, this particular show and like other shows I've worked on have just been coming from this place of just like kindness and like everyone like let's do this together. Like we're a goddamn team. Let's do it. So you know.
Interesting. Interesting. Hmm. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, and it's something about the way that that like I agree with you in terms of seeing
Mhm.
other people's wins and just victories, because everybody gets theirs. You know, like
Yes.
I've always seen, as long as you're putting in the work and you're doing your best, everybody gets theirs in time. And
Hmm.
so anytime I see something where somebody else gets something and I didn't, I'm like, I mean, that was their thing, you know, because then
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a thing and it's gonna be mine, and then nobody else get it, and it was my thing. And you know, I can understand where if you see somebody get something and you're like, dang, like I wanted that for me too. But like I don't
Yeah.
understand where like people be really wanting to like people want other people to not have or to lose or to like not succeed. I've never
Yeah.
understood that about people. Like
I
I'm
I feel like it comes from insecurity. I feel like it comes like because like I feel like when you're secure, when you're confident and all that stuff, you don't care. Like not that you don't care about other people, but like you don't care about what someone else is getting and what they're not getting, or in comparison to yourself. You'll just
mm,
be like, oh man, like that's dope. Like, like I'm really happy that you got this thing because you understand that that's like coming from you. Or like, like that's not taking from like you or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, all right, cool. Like you got yours, I'm gonna get mine. It's like I'm gonna keep working on me. I'm gonna keep doing this thing and whatnot. And I think it's just like, yeah, I feel like, we're fed to be insecure so much. I talk about the Instagram ads, I talk about people's T levels or like hair or whatever, like lose weight, like those aren't things to make you feel secure. Like those are things that you didn't even probably half the time don't even know you should be insecure about, kind of thing, Like,
yep,
like and I feel like that's the whole thing. Is that like you don't come from this level of like false scarcity and whatnot, you suddenly understand the abundance that's all around you. I guess it's that abundance mentality and whatnot. And, you can apply that to art and whatnot. You can apply that to like any aspect of your life where you're just like, all right, cool. Like, I can still, like, if someone makes a good comic, that's not a reflection on me and all that stuff. That just means that I too could also make a great comic. Like, like I think that's like we were talking about getting hype, seeing your friends and people doing dope shit. And to me, it comes from that mindset of like, I'm like, oh shit, that is possible. Like we can make great comics. Like so and so made a great comic. So and so made a great design. So and so did this thing. Like like, and that's just kind of like how I think about it too. Like maybe it's like a Dragon Ball Z thing. Like like Goku goes Super Saiyan, and if Vegeta was like a healthier person, he instead of him being like, "Oh, this means I'm weak," to me, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, shit, that means that I too can also become Super Saiyan because he got all the same shit I got and all that shit. So like, I can fucking do this shit too."
yep,
So
yep.
yeah,
That's how I've always seen it, where it's like
yeah,
you're seeing what people do as a
yeah,
possibility, you know. And that's where
yeah.
like I've grown up the youngest child. I was always like shorter or like smaller,
Mm.
skinnier, weaker, younger. Even like in school, whenever I had like little art groups with my friends drawing and stuff, I wasn't even the best artist. Like I was oftentimes like the player two, the little brother, like the step
Yeah.
down. And and
Yeah.
so I've always like I'm so used to being in a position where like there's somebody better than me right next to me.
Yeah.
And I've always just seen that as like, well, we're both humans. We both can like, especially with something like art. Maybe if it was like basketball and this dude's like 6'5", and I'm like, well, I don't know. I can't control my height. But
You
in
got weak
terms,
knees. You got to break his knees, man. All you gotta
right,
do.
right.
That's like, yeah. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but it's like, you know, with stuff like that, I'm just so used to being like just kind of a step down, but I never saw it as like something negative on me. It was always something where it's like, okay, I always had this level of comparison, and
Yeah.
I think it was a healthy form of comparison because I never saw it as like, oh, they have this, so I'm trash or whatever. But it's more so
Yeah.
they have this, so I could have it too if I work at it, you know, because that's how they got it. And then, you know, it's just
Yeah.
time, elbow grease. And so
Ah,
I can do this too.
yeah. No,
Hmm.
I think that's such a healthy way of looking at it. Like, I feel like yeah, that's like something it took me a while to like learn that lesson and really understand it, where I was like, oh, this is just insecurity. Oh, this is coming from this and whatnot. But I feel like once I understood it, I was just like, oh, this is so stupid. Like, like why even think about yourself that way, or why even think less, or like think that this has like any effect on you? I think it's just important to do what you can. Like as long as you're trying your best, as long as you're doing your best, and like you've nothing to feel bad about. Like, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and that's okay. Like, I feel like having a mindset that like when something doesn't go the way you wanted it to go, like if you like tried out for a job and you didn't get it, it's a good chance for you to look at why you didn't get it. Like what's something that you felt that you could improve on and all that stuff. I feel like, outside of like being like, oh, you need to take care of yourself and whatnot. I think that's just a healthy way of looking at it. It's just like, all right, well then, like, fuck it, I'll get it next time. Like, and if I don't get it next time, I'll get it next time, and I'll keep getting it next time until I get it, and then when I get it, I'll dunk on host, and then I'll do it again, like rinse and repeat the cycle. Like that's just kind of yeah, just how I've been trying to look at it. Like, some days are easier than others. I'm not saying I'm like some like Zen saint who just like, oh, I don't feel any emotions anytime I lose. No, I'm like, sometimes it takes me a minute to remember the lesson I should learn from this and all that stuff. But I'm also human, and I think that's part of the human process. Like, and that's it. Like, because like at the end of the day, I just want to be the best AJ I can be. You know, like I just want to make art that I'm proud of, make my friends laugh, make people hopefully just like have a fun appreciation for something, and if they can like share it with someone else, great. If they, you know, like you know what I mean, like it's like that's something we have any control over. I'm just like make something worthwhile, say something worth saying, like even if it's a joke. I think right now we need all the humor that we can get. We need things that are going to lighten the mood because it is dark times. Like so. I'm just kind of doing what I can.
Yeah. It's nice to be able to have that kind of objective too, of like just giving yourself just being like that light amongst all
Yeah,
the amongst all the darkness you can see, especially on social media and things.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
I'm trying. Like I'm doing. Like I said, working on not saying trying as much. And I think maybe it's just kind of like the stories I grew up watching. I think about like your Goku's, your Luke Skywalkers kind of thing, where I'm just like, oh, I really love how these were just genuine good dudes. It wasn't like Goku, like how he is as a dad and all that stuff. Actually, no, I'm not gonna go into Goku dad is a good dad rant, but like that's the next episode. That's the next time I'm on here. I'll be like the whole like hour. But like, I feel like I just like just like try to be a light. Just try to like because you don't know what everyone else is going through. You don't know the stuff they're dealing with. And I feel like instead of just like adding to that burden, if I can just like make someone's day a little bit better. You just like, check in on a friend and all that stuff. That's like, I don't know. Those are things that people are going to remember you for. Those are the kind of things that like people are going to remember, as opposed to just being like, oh, AJ was fucking an asshole. Like, I mean, sure, people are going to remember that, but like, that's not what I want. I want people to be like, damn, well, AJ at least made me laugh a couple times, or like, hey, I worked with him and he was just like gun ho. He's like, let's go, like, and that's kind of like this is a good experience I want people to have of me. So
That's nice. Yeah.
I'm like, and that's my time. All right, cool. Leave on a good note. Oh no, I still
No,
like keep
no,
my
no,
time.
no.
Like yeah, like
No, no,
uh,
no, for sure. Um, I'm trying to figure out like how to word the next question I have for you. Are there any stories you are that you struggle to tell or are afraid to tell slash reluctant to
Mm,
tell?
I feel like if I'm feeling scared to tell a story, is always like probably a good reason, like, to explore like why I'm scared of telling it,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, do I think it's a bad story? Do I think it's like too controversial or some shit like that? You know what I mean? Like, and then I feel like, if it is, then like correct it. It's just kind of like, all right, well, if it's like too controversial, then like, why the hell am I even telling it? You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
you know, if I feel like it's not a good story, it's like, how do I make it a good story? You know, so like I feel like I never really try. I just try to just make sure it's like worthwhile, kind of things. I feel like just trying to be a more solution based person kind of helps. Something I always tell, like, I've been thinking about ever since I was a kid, where I was like, oh, my last name is Howard. So, like, how do I do this thing? It's always been kind of like my mindset, instead of like, if I can do it, should do it. I'm like, how do I do this? Like, if I want to make cartoons, like, how do I do this? Like, do I just become a writer? Do I just become like an artist? Do I do these things? Like, there's a solution there, like there's a way to figure this out. There's an angle I'm missing, kind of thing. So yeah, I feel like with a lot of my stories, I'm usually trying to do that. I feel like I haven't gotten a chance to tell more deeper stories, but the ones I do want to tell are like, I feel like I just probably just going to talk about a lot of like family stuff because I feel like that's just always on my mind. So I think it's such an interesting dynamic of like your family, whether it's found or like, biological or whatever. Like how do you form that? What do you do with those relationships and whatnot? And like, sure, it scares me, but I kind of am like excited by the scariness. I kind of feel like I'm like, ooh, what is it? What am I gonna dig up here? Like, kind of thing. Like, what's this saying about this thing? Because like I said, I feel like sure I try to just make like haha goofy stories a lot of times, but I also know that like when I do dig deeper, when I want to tell those other ones, like me being scared means that that's probably something I should explore more. And so
Sure. I think that there's always a part. I mean, I even get it just on a small level because I'm like starting to share more of how I feel through my work. And there's
yeah,
always like that bit of anxiety that comes up where it's like they're not even gonna be caring about this or like this like you put it out thinking that nobody will be able to resonate with you or like oh you're like the only one that really has that kind of experience or like people don't see it that way or
yeah,
and I was reading I think it was The Creative Act by Rick Rubin and he was saying that
yeah,
that particular feeling is a part of the process in itself. Even
yeah,
doing this even like starting this podcast, before I posted the very first flyer, it was like at that point I knew I was like, I gotta do it. At that point, once you put out the flyer, like I gotta run it,
right,
and so I remember sitting there like just like hovering over the post button, and I'm like, and I'm feeling that whole like situation, and I'm like, and I just hit it, and I'm like, ugh, like it was a whole feel of just a wave of that kind of that initial fear of people won't receive it well or people
mhm,
won't see it the way that I do. But then, you look up and it's like, oh, everybody's living the same life with a different
right.
skin.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And it was funny you mentioned the what is it, creative act or creative play? Like, he's
Yeah,
like, I
creative act.
listened to like the audiobook for that. And I kind of feel like that kind of helped me like solidify my feelings on that like approach where I was like, oh yeah, if I'm feeling like scared, that's probably the thing to like explore and like, that's a good thing because it means that like you're like somewhat invested, kind of thing. And I get it. Like that's something I've been really just doing more. I feel like I tend to be like pretty open about my process, like for people who I know on a personal level. I mean, as you know, we'll sit in our chat. I was like on my screen up, and it's like, oh, you just watch me draw, kind of thing. And I just like, yeah, for me, I'm just kind of like tired of living in fear, tired of letting that control my whole life, kind of thing. And so I just kind of, but I also know it's like a human emotion, and I know it comes from somewhere, and it's usually just because I'm like feeling, because I'm like, I know I'm putting like myself into it, and
Hmm.
whatnot. And so,
Then once you put
and that's
yourself
what we should
into it,
do.
yeah, once you put yourself into
Yeah,
it, then that becomes the thing that's able to be like judged, criticized, evaluated, assessed by everybody that sees it. So, if you're not in it, then it's not quite as heavy because you're like, well, they just didn't like that thing. But then if it's something that's really near and dear, then you're like, oof, kind of hope y'all like this.
yeah, exactly. And if they don't, then like it happens, and there might be a reason for it. It could, like, maybe it's just like not like you just didn't reach like your audience, or like the algorithm is screwed you over, especially in this day and age and
Hmm.
whatnot. And like, not like, who knows? Like, like I said, I think about the frog things I just posted, and I really feel like that hit with a lot of people. And it wasn't just because it was like, oh, this is really good. It was just like, I think people just like seeing some like cute frogs be cute, And I'm really glad, but like, I really wanted to just like show this like relationship, I feel like I had people tell me what, like, especially the one with them in the pond, and they're like all the lights and all that stuff, and they're looking at each other. I had people just be like, oh, this is a scenario I see where I look at this, and I was like, I love this. This is great. Like, I'm so glad that like I could make anything that makes you tell this like story in your head great. 10 out of 10, you know? Because I know at the same time, too, that's what I was really focusing on. I was just like, oh, I want people to look at this and just like really think about it and like feel something, and and be like, what the hell are these two frogs doing in this pond? Like, what's going on here? You know? And so,
Yeah, being able to see something, especially objectively, it's like it's two frogs like sitting in a pond, which is like
yeah,
it can be silly, but then it's like for people to see. You even see it all like on other social media posts where they're like, oh, you see two butterflies or whatever, and then you'll be like, oh, that's us, or they'll be like, oh,
yeah,
this is me and me and they or whatever, and so it's
yeah,
cool.
exactly.
It's
Exactly. Like,
being able to like
I,
pull on that same string is really
yeah,
cool, like that people can see your work, and it literally takes them to a place that has them thinking about like people that they care about and stuff like that. um
yeah.
it's really powerful stuff.
Hey, that's art, man. Like, I feel like that's it. Like I just want, like I said, I feel like I'm always just striving for that like human connection, and just making sure that like my art's given back. Like I know we haven't touched on this, but like I think about that a lot, like with the photography I do
Hmm.
too. Where I'm like, oh, my favorite part of doing all that is sending the photos I take of like my friends and things that we were at, and sending it back to them. Like, to me, it's like I feel like Santa Claus, like with like a bag of toys, and I'm just like, hey everyone, and here's like a gift for you and you and you, and look how good you look, and look how good you look, and like look how cool this thing was that we did, and I love that. I it's like that's the best feeling, because to me it just feels like I'm like giving back. I'm like showing a level of like gratitude, for me, where I'm just like, I appreciate that we spend time together and that we can do this thing together. And, I hope that like at the very least this is like worthwhile. And, they're like, I'm like, well, hell, like AJ took this good photo of me that I can like show my mom and she'll fucking love it, because all moms love photos of their kids. So, um and all that stuff. Like, I think about that too, like with my art. I'm like, oh, I hope I can just like make something like I said, worthy of your time. And you go wow, damn, those frogs really remind me of my girl. I should like send this to my girl. You know, I'm thinking about her, or like, let me see her text, or like, maybe I'll do something nice today. Um, yeah, I think about the like, spoilers for what fucking Full Metal Alchemist from like damn near 20 years ago. So, I guess if your chat's like yelling at you and they're like, he spoiled this shit, I just haven't started. But like one of the things I always loved at the end of it was that like the elder brothers when they were talking to shit, who was it? They were talking to someone at the very end, like the last episode, and they were talking about how they're developing this new philosophy. Instead of doing like equivalent exchange where it's like one for one, they're like, oh, we're doing this thing where like we do this philosophy of like, where you just like add to something and then like, it's like 1+1 = 2 kind of a thing, where you're just like adding to it. And it's like, I try to think like these acts of kindness are like, these like light that you're putting out here adds, where you're like, if you do something nice for someone, I'm always like, if I do something nice for someone, and they're like, how do I pay you back? I'm like, do something nice for someone else. Like, you know what I mean? And I think about how, art has helped me in such like dark places and times in my life that like really just like helped me connect. So I feel like it's probably like my duty to also help, like, connect with someone else, and then maybe they can make art that can connect with someone else and like do these things, or like, like I said, text a girlfriend, text a grandmother, or some shit like that, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, because you told me that those frogs were specifically for cards, right? Greeting cards.
yes, yes, they were in commission. But like, I feel like that was always the mission behind things where I'm like, all right, like, like I said, there's always like a part of like where I'm like, I gotta pay bills and whatever. But I'm also like, you know what? I don't just gotta pay bills. Like if I wanted to just pay bills, I can go get like a normal job or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like, so I'm like, I always feel like I'm like, all right, I can do both. Like I can, grant it weans in ways, like sometimes, it could just be like 90% paying the bills, 10% like trying to make something fun or like interesting or something worthy of people's time. And I feel like with the frog ones, it just happened to line up where I could do both. It's like I can pay my bills, but sometimes you get lucky and you talk about getting paid and you get paid. And sometimes you get lucky where like the thing that pays the bills also is a thing that you can use as like, a vehicle to like make things that you care about. I feel like we do that a lot in cartoons. I feel like we did that a lot on Craig. I feel like that's one of the things that I really loved about the show before I even got on the show was how much it connected with people. And I know Craig pays the bills because Craig paid my bills. You know what I mean? It can go both ways. And, I feel like I try not to, I also accept that, like, it's not always going to be that way. Like I said, sometimes it's just like you get a job and you're like, I'm trying to pay my damn bills. Like, I don't care about this at all, or like or like there's like too many limitations that like it's like hard for you to connect with it. And
Mm-hmm.
then if you're doing it right, if you or not even doing it right, because it's really if you get really lucky and the planets align, stars align, and all that stuff, you get a job where you're like, hey, you can pay your bills, you can make something that you care about, and you can like learn something too. So
For
like
sure.
yeah,
I think I think that is one of the challenges of being an artist in our
yeah,
profession. Like it's all about creative problem solving, and
yeah,
so whatever problem it is, even in like, hey, we need cool greeting cards. Like that is the problem. We need to solve it. But
yeah,
then for you, it's like, okay, I have to do this thing, or I need to do this thing. I want to do this thing, and it's like, how do I make it also appealing and satisfying to me? How do I also
yes,
make it fun? How do I also make it cool as everything else? Even though the job itself may not have been as cool or as inviting as some other
right,
jobs, but like I can still make it just as cool as something else,
yeah,
using that problem solving. And I got to thinking about just in the terms of like with you doing those cards and just with making artwork that makes people that kind of spurs people to action. I was thinking about this the other day And
hmm
it's it kind of put into perspective that that we're kind of we are the artists who are doing the the things that people will see now. Where
Yeah.
to 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 try and like clarify that, it's like whenever I was younger,
hmm
um or I had actually, I'm gonna start over. So I had a job
Yeah.
earlier last month where I had to do a thing for May the 4th at this museum. And so
Nice.
I was making some prints, like, and the kids were coming up to make Star Wars character uh linoleum prints on this piece of paper. And so I wanted to design
So
a
cool.
worksheet, like
Yeah.
to put the thing so that the kids can put the little stamps on it, right? And I'm sitting here and I did the template, and I'm like, yo, I just made a worksheet. And it kind of struck me. It was very like, you just made a worksheet, but then I thought about it and I'm like, when I was a kid, I used to wonder like who made the worksheet. Like I used to be like, this little,
Yeah.
you got like a Christmas themed like math
Yeah.
homework and you got a Christmas tree on it, and it's like, dang, I just did that. I just did that for these
Right.
kids. These kids did the May the 4th thing for Star Wars, and I
I
did the
love
thing
that.
that they did. And it
Yeah.
and it really put into perspective of like, it made me think like I have a responsibility to the
Yeah.
people that are
Yeah.
that are seeing things every day, not even just the kids, but just in general, the people who are seeing things that require artists to make things like
Yeah.
like we have, that's our job like
Yeah.
now to like do that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, which is like, it it made me take the projects a lot more seriously. And it's not so much to where I'm like worrying about it, but just it inspired me to really give it my best shot each time, because I'm like, this is influencing people. Like,
Yes.
if
I
this is
love
really
it.
cool,
Like
like,
that's
yeah.
that's like, it's funny. Like it's so hard not to make the joke, but you're like, I wondered as a kid who made the worksheets. I was like, Cam, it was you all along. It was you from the future sending you worksheets from the past. Like, you know,
Yeah, that'd be
like,
crazy.
yeah, that'd be wild. That's a good comic though. Like, see, there you go. See, we
Yeah,
already come up with a comic book idea. I feel
dang.
that's
I didn't even
how I
think about
come
a
up with
comic.
comic book ideas. Yeah.
I
Hmm?
didn't even think
Yeah.
about a comic. Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's great, and I think you know understanding the responsibilities that we have as artists to convey thoughts and feelings, and realizing that our things do have an impact and a lasting effect and all that stuff is huge. And I always think about that, a lot, because sometimes you work in an industry like animation, and you're like, holy crap, this is crazy. Like I'm working on something that will influence another person at some point to continue on this craft.
Yep.
We all have shows that we all think about that made us want to do these things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Especially like I said, I was talking about my first memory as a human being, as a conscious human being, is going to go see the Lion King and all that
Mm.
shit. But I also think about shows that I liked growing up that were not that popular, or were only around for a while, kind of the thing. And of course, as I was saying, I can't think of one of them, or any good examples. But I also think like I love this kind of stuff. I love the impact and the lasting thing. How art can just last for a while and have a really long lasting positive effect on people. I think that's why I also love doing, speaking of art chat, the tier list that we do every week. Granted, it's chaos. And it's partly me just being like Littlefinger, and I'm like, chaos is the ladder. Let me just see what these people feel about this Pokemon for an hour. But it's also really insightful to see why people like what the hell they like, and why it lasts the way it lasts. I remember we did we did a Cartoon Network TV show tier list one night, and you know I feel like shows where I was like, I didn't really like that. Someone was like, that's my favorite show, and I grew up watching this show, and this is my favorite show I've ever seen. What the hell, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is a good reminder that just because I didn't like this as a kid doesn't mean that it wasn't someone else's favorite show, or like it wasn't someone else's favorite character, or like whatever. You know, I think about that kind of stuff too. I feel like we have like a folder of just like old art from school that I would draw on the back of, back of worksheets. So, great, it might not have been the worksheets that like had a lasting impact, other than the fact that I was like, I'm going to draw on the back of this, and then I'm going to keep this worksheet for like forever, But like, there's things that are that we do that's going to have a lasting impact.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I love that. I think this is it's like poetic. It's that cycle of art will continue. I feel like I said, this is why like I'm not worried about AI outside the fact of it messing with people's jobs, because I feel like AI art, or like art, is so soulless, it connects with no one. How like no one's gonna be like, oh man, you remember like watching Will Smith eat like spaghetti noodles, and I'll say, that really affected me as a child, and I saw it and I knew that I could just type in prompts that also be the most inhumane thing I've ever seen in my life. Usually most of the time, the only thing people talk about is how like just like uncanny and unreal and weird and unnerving these things are. But they're not making a connection. I feel like we're usually talking about the lack of connection to those kind of things. But I feel like as long as there's a human behind it, as long as there's someone who's feeling and experiencing, and like at least at the very least wanting to communicate something, it will connect with people. It will have this like everlasting impact. Even if we don't see it directly, like if no one ever, like, if I like draw something and no one's like, hey, these frog pictures, whatever, like, I instead of like I'm gonna draw fish or whatever, you know, hopefully it'll still, the cycle will still keep going. Like people will still keep making things because of that one thing. And I'm just like a small part of a much bigger thing. And there's some comfort for me in that, of just knowing that like it's not all on me to like carry art forever. It's just like, oh, I just do just, like what I can, and that's enough. Even if it's just like I affect one person or like a handful of people or whatever, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like
Even
nice.
yeah, even outside of art. I mean, I'm thinking for you, like with that job in particular with the greeting cards.
Yeah.
I mean, for for the kind of work that we like to do and that we want to do, it's like, oh, greeting card. I mean, maybe I don't know, but I think that like
Yeah.
even people who aren't into art, like man, there's times where you might need to say sorry. You might have got in trouble with your lady, and you need to go and get you a nice little card, some flowers, go say
See
sorry,
that?
and that card might be the thing that is like the perfect situation
Yeah.
for it, or
I
like or like that might be their favorite. There might be their favorite like thing. They might love frogs and like, oh, you got me this
yeah.
frog card, and like that might be the thing that helps or even just
Yeah.
saying thank you. It might have been like a crazy something that happened and somebody went out of their way to help, and then being able to like push that.
Yeah.
That thing affects people who don't even do art. You know.
Yeah. And like I don't know, I'm really hoping at one point someone gets one of those frog ones and it's just like kind of slightly inappropriate, where you're just like, oh, my son loves frogs. Like these two frogs are cute, and then you're just like, mom, what the like, what the hell are these frogs doing to the frog? Like, what? It's so weird. Like, sorry, I was thinking about that a lot when I was like working on this. I was just like laughing at myself, being like, what's the funny scenario you could give someone these cards and all that stuff? And like, yeah, I hear you. That's kind of one of the things I really liked about. That's like why I took that job, because they were just like, I like met with them and they were like, oh, we want to make cards that are gonna have a lasting impact. And I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. Because I have like a box of like cards that I've gotten for like birthdays or Christmas or like whatever. Like I keep them, and
Mm-hmm.
I think about that a lot. Where I'll be like, oh yeah, like that's like someone else, like my art will be on something for that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it'll, like and I think that's great. I think that's like super cool. Like that's just like one of those things where you're just like, damn, that's art. Like I just did some art. Like,
Yep.
you know, like
Yep, especially something like tangible that you can like have and keep. You know,
I know.
those things are I mean, timeless. I literally I have a freaking card from like my birthday, I think. Yeah. From this right
I
here.
like how my stupid ass, like you started reaching, I was like, what? Like I'm just like, I don't think I can
Right.
see it. No, show me the card, show me the card. Like I want the card. Oh,
Oh yeah, it's just but even the artwork on
yeah.
that, it's like
Mhm.
it's something that is like that you can remember and like even if you don't think about the art consciously, it's like it's
Yeah.
still associated with that memory, it's still associated with that person who gave it to you and everything.
Oh man, that's great. Hold on a second. I'm gonna let my cat in here because he's just like yelling. And I'm like, I feel like bad cat hair. I'm like, who knows? For people watching, you might get a cat cameo in a second and all that stuff. Let's see if he comes through. So,
Oh
but
man, them folks gonna love that. They
yeah,
would love to
if
see it.
you reviews, give me those views. So,
People love seeing cats on the internet, man. That's
I
like
mean,
the number one star on the internet.
cats rock. Like I love me. I mean, animals rock. I just got back from Seattle, and we went to like this park while we were there. Like me and my wife and her like friends, and we saw the cutest little just like black puppy. Like it was like this little puppy named Meatball. He was so small. He was so cute. My wife started crying. Like it was the and I was just like, dude, animals rock. Like you can convey like just by existing, you can convey this emotion. Like it's amazing, you know? Like
Yeah, it's
so like
interesting.
I get it.
Yeah, we
Mm-hmm.
just got a puppy
Ah,
and like it's
mm-hmm.
I never thought I'd be one of those people where people who have like puppy like cats and dogs and like they're always posting pictures of their animals and stuff like that and I always was like I'm not gonna be one of the people that like post their dog or like that got pictures of them all on their phone and we haven't even had this man a week and I mean
Yeah.
I've taken all kinds of pictures and videos and it's like
Oh
what
my
is
god,
this.
yes. That's the best. Like I oh man, like this little dude, or not little, he's a big ass boy. Like Ollie, the one who keeps walking around in the background. Okay, he's over there now. But like I had him since he was like 3 months, and I have like so many photos and videos of him as a kitten. But like it's been like 10 years now,
Mm.
and I'm just like, oh my god, he used to fit in my little hand. Now he's like big boy who yells at me when I'm on podcasts and all that stuff to get let in and just like walk around for no reason. But like yeah, I love that. Like so have you thought like does your little puppy have a name and all that stuff? Like, you
We
know,
still ironing it out, but we're gonna have something soon. Something
I'm
soon.
telling you, you should AJ Jr. is such a good name. It rolls off the tongue. It's just like it's like noble. You're just like, oh man, like AJ Jr. Man, that's a
It's a
cool
hero's
dude.
name.
So yeah, that's a hero's name. That's like they're like, oh, is that from like a fantasy story? Oh man,
It just
but,
works. It just works.
yeah.
But um, tell me about Takeout Kings.
Oh, all right. Takeout Kings is the comic I am working on, and it is about two friends named Gus and Joe. Well, Joe the coffee bot, and they're going through a tower delivering coffee. And the whole time they're trying to get to the top of the tower so that they can become the Takeout Kings. And they just have a lot of misadventures. Every floor of the tower is a different like world. And the only way for them to keep going through the tower is that there's like this ranking system that they have to get like earn enough points to level up to go to like the next floor and all that stuff. And so the whole time they just have like misadventures and it's really goofy and yeah, it feeds up like 90% of my brain. I feel like my brain right now is just like all takeout cakes and then it's like eating and then it's just like cat photos and like my wife. So yeah.
Yeah. So that one, um,
Hmm.
is that your, would you consider that to be like your main or most important like personal undertaking?
Yeah, I think this is like my like 100 unfiltered, like 100% unfiltered, like AJ, like it's a thing that I can do that I don't have to be like, who is this for? Because I'm like, this is for me. If no one reads this, like I posted, everyone's like, oh, this is just like, well, what the hell is this? I'll be like, damn, this is good. Like I cooked, like you know what I mean? Like this is like kind of like me to a T, because I'm a big like, oh, you gotta work towards something, you gotta like figure it out, but also I'm just like such a fan of just having a bunch of goofballs trying to like fall upwards, essentially. Like, they're like, oh, we gotta deliver the slime, and someone's like, I'm gonna steal your slime, and they're just like, all right, well, we gotta throw hands. So, yeah, because like right now I'm currently working on like I guess like what would be like a newspaper comic strip, but for 2025. So I'm like posting these like strips on like comic strips on Instagram, and all leading up to like a bigger, like more traditional single issue that I'm gonna release later on this year. So yeah, it's kind of like my like catch all for like everything I want to do as an artist. So storytelling, a lot of jokes, some good action. Um, if I'm lucky, hopefully in later issues I can make you all cry because you'll be like, I love these characters so much, like kind of thing. So
Mm.
you know.
Can you can you tell me a bit or break down some of the inspirations or some of the ways that you're able to get some of these things worked into Takeout Kings? So, how is this your outlet for being able to make jokes, or how is this your nod to Dragon Ball? If you can say
Yeah,
like without
yeah.
spoiling your story and stuff.
Okay, I mean, like if you know me, I love me some Dragon Ball. I could not deny Dragon Ball's influence on like just me as a person. I would be lying. I think for me, it's just kind of like I said, it's a chance for me to put in everything I think it's cool, kind of thing. Like there's no like the only limitations I have on the story are the ones that I put on it myself. Kind of the thing, and I feel like I just really try to draw from what I like about the things that I'm using as an influence, like Dragon Ball, for instance. I love how just like the world of Dragon Ball works. Like you don't really question it when it's like, hey, this like you know girl is driving around on like a just futuristic like motorcycle, and she meets some kid who has a monkey tail that turns into a giant monkey during the full moon and all that stuff. You're just like, yeah, that makes sense. I feel like something that I always remind myself is that the president of the world of Dragon Ball is a goddamn dog. Like, and no one's like, how did that happen? Like, what? That's so weird. Oh, like they don't do the Marvel thing where they're like, or the MCU thing where they're like, that's strange, a dog. Ooh, it's just like kind of like, oh yeah, they're like, Mr. McGruff, you're the president, and he's just like, ooh, we gotta do things, and you're just like, so he just kind of like reminds me that you can just do whatever you want,
Yeah.
like at least like one idiot, in this case of Dragon Ball, me will love it. Like, I'm like, this is great. Like, this is 10 out of 10. So it kind of just reminds me to be fearless and just like kind of talk about what I want to with a certain level of confidence,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm just like, oh, I'm going to make this thing. There's a tower. They're going to deliver coffee. Why? Because I think it's fucking funny. I think, like they can do anything. And delivering coffee to me is just like such a funny thing. But like at the same time, too, in that story, you know, like the reason I chose coffee is because it's like a connection I have with my sisters. Like both my sisters were like baristas at one point. My oldest sister goes to like the world barista competitions and shit like that when they're in like the Bay Area and whatnot. So like, I remember like this one time in it was like just out of high school, I had this date with this woman. a girl or whatever, like I had this date and I was taking her to my sister's house where she could show us how to roast our own coffee beans and all that stuff. So I think, especially like with Takeout Kings, there's a lot of like familial stuff with it. And so with like, coffee to me just kind of like represents like my connection with my sisters and, family. And I just kind of put it in here. But it's also just like really funny. Like, I feel like it's just like, yeah, because, Gus, like the main character of the story, is you're kind of like shonen kid who's just like, yo, I want to like go to the top of the tower and all that stuff. And like, he has his reasons behind it. But, I feel like the way how he's able to do that is with this familial connection he has to it, coffee, just like kind of how I'm doing at the same time, where it's like this twofold thing. So
Interesting. I like that you do have that fearlessness in you and in that story, because I like
yeah,
when stories can have you believing in some crazy stuff, like where you be like, and it just makes sense in that world,
yeah,
where it's like, they're delivering coffee, they running up this tower, and like that's just what it is. And in
yeah,
another in another
yeah,
sense it might be crazy, but it's like it works here. And it's kind of like same thing for like a show like Adventure Time, where all of the
yes,
craziness be going on, and like, and they break their own rules all the time.
yeah,
But
yeah, exactly. Like Adventure Time, I think about like Steven Universe, where like, you know, if you're like, like either of those shows, I feel like Adventure Time's another big influence on Takeout Kings and all that stuff, where it's just like two dudes try to just do dude stuff, like that's all Adventure
yeah,
Time. This is just spend a day just hanging out, and then they just like have adventures, and you don't question it too much, Sure, there's like a reason why the world is the way it is in that world, but like you can just watch a random episode and enjoy it,
yeah,
like, and I feel like it just, you know, as long as you confidently tell your story, people will believe it. Like I said, the president is a dog in Dragon Ball, and no one questions it. You know,
it had to
sure,
get
yeah,
voted
why
in.
not? Yeah, exactly. It's like Princess Bubblegum is an immortal princess who has candy people, and it's just like, does it work? It's like, sure, yeah, fuck
It
it.
just
Like,
happens.
like as long as the characters believe it works, it works. Like, so
Mhm. Yeah, like even Marceline being a vampire, but she eats the
yeah,
color red, but not blood, just red.
yeah.
It's like,
It,
I
Yeah. As long as they're not like, oh, that's weird, that's strange, oh, that's a little plot hole. I feel like so many people get caught up in this like plot hole like fandom kind of thing where they're just like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. Like, how could Marceline just suck the color red and that works? Whatever, blah blah. You're like, no, like motherfucker, like just accept it sometimes. Like, sometimes it just is what it is. Like I said, the president is a dog, let it go. Like, so
I'm one of those people that'll ask that, but for laughs. Like I am
yeah,
definitely one
same.
that'll
Yeah,
notice. I'll be like, how to get a dog in the
yeah.
office? Like, who was running against it? Who lost to a dog?
Yeah,
I would be pissed
exactly.
if I lost to a dog.
Exactly. Really, I feel like because I'm the same way too. Like because to me, I think it can be fun. I think like when you suck the fun out of it, like that's when it's not fun anymore. Because like for
Mhm.
me, I'm just like, oh, I want to know the story about how the president, like how the dog won the presidency and all that stuff. Because that sounds hilarious. That sounds so stupid. But then at the same time, if we never know, I'm just like, that sounds so cool too.
I'll
Like,
be like
you
that.
know, yeah.
Mm,
But oh man,
that is funny. So a lot of people will have their like idea, their thing,
yeah,
and they want to make it a thing too. And all they have are like they just have this grand idea in their head, or it's maybe a few sketches on paper, but they're like, I don't know
yeah,
how to turn it into like a web series. I don't know how to make it into a cartoon. I don't know how to do a comic strip or any of those types of things. And like I don't know where to start.
yeah.
And then even like for myself, I have some characters that I've been working on as well, like the Thunder and Fire, and like
Oh
I've
my
been
God,
wanting
yes.
to I have some ideas for like who they are,
Mhm.
and I have an idea for like a story that I kind of want to tell, but just
Yeah.
in the terms of like people like us where we have this idea, but it's still so like it's in a bubble and it's far away. You know, how
Mhm.
do you pull that closer? How do you bring that um to you? How would you advise other people to be able to bring their like their dream thing
Right.
to a tangible form?
Yeah. Oh man, I feel like for me, that process is you need to get a really good friend. Like in this case, it is Ty Goodwin and all that stuff. Like, shout out to the homie of all
Mm-hmm.
homies. Um, he like I just like he's very patient. He's very lucky. I just kind of was like he just like kind of allowed me to talk about like all my ideas out of my head and just be like, this is what I'm thinking about. And then he's also just a saint. He like wrote these notes and he was just like, I think your focus is their friendship. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. So I feel like, if you don't have a tie, what you need to do is you need to just like sit down and like just open the floodgates, get all the ideas out. Because I feel like you can always go back and figure it out and like cherry pick things that you think are good and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, some things you go back in the oven a little bit. Some things are still like, you're like, oh, that's not fully cooked out. Like, we're not gonna do that idea. Like this part of this idea fully just yet. Like, put that in here. Like, save that for later. I feel like that's been like the big thing for me. It's just kind of just like getting stuff down, putting it on like paper. Like in a literal sense, in a metaphorical sense. Like just being like, all right, cool. Like I'm gonna draw this out. Oh, hey, look, I got a sketchbook right here. Like I'll just sketch out and write like a bunch of ideas and stuff like that. Like literally, like here's Takeout Kings thing. And so like I think that takes helps me too, because just like having it out there means I can like make it better. Getting that first draft done means I can make a better second draft and get to a point where I'm happy or like where I can like show people and I'm not like, oh, I'm just, like super embarrassed because like I didn't really think this all the way through and whatnot. Yeah, so I feel like if you have a story, just work on it. Like chances are it's gonna be like too many ideas and all that stuff. But then once you realize that it's too many ideas, you can really start to figure out what ideas are worth telling. And then as you start doing that, you can make those ideas better and whatnot. It's just kind of like getting the ball going is the biggest hurdle. It's like that cliche where it's like the hardest step is the first step, and it's like, yeah, actually, yeah, it really is. Like, you know,
Because then once you get it going, like it's always easier to kind of just push it a little further, or
yeah,
just trim up this thing,
yeah,
instead of having to like, because it is kind of I can even feel in myself. There's a part of me that still has that like has to come out perfect the first time.
yeah. Oh,
Like whenever
yeah, I
I'm
feel that.
drawing, even just in a casual sense, I've found that I like drawing on loose paper right now more than anything,
Yes.
because it's
Mm-hmm.
like that detachment from, like, especially in a sketchbook. I need it to be like, I need this to be lit all the time, and it's like, but I've worked myself out of that habit where I'm like,
Yeah,
it's a sketchbook, put a sketch in it, sketch in
exactly,
me, like just do
exactly.
that. But there is still like those like remnants of that kind of thinking whenever I am drawing. But whenever I do it just on like regular blank paper, it's not only more fun, but I end up, that is the thing that ends up making better drawings. Like, which is funny.
Yes,
Like whenever you stop
yeah.
trying to make the cool drawing, you make the cool drawing. It's like, what is
It's just the irony.
that?
That's the irony of it. But like, like I said, it always comes back to like having fun, being able to like be in like a state of like relax and flow and whatnot. And like that's it. I feel like we always have this mindset that like art should be hard and all that stuff, but that's like not true at all. It's like art is hard under capitalism. Art is hard to monetize, but the creation of art is not hard. Like being able, because like you don't have to do it good. You don't have to do it a thing. Like you can just have fun with making the stuff. And something I've also just learned that I've learned from like my mentor Danny was really just about how mastery comes over time. Like it's good to be like start slow because like that's how you get good. And when you get good, that's when you get fast and all that stuff. And so it's like so I feel like I kind of like started to understand that like if I'm like trying to rush through something, I'm going to make something I don't like. But it's a balancing act. You can't be too slow when you're working professionally because you gotta like you're not working on your deadline. But I feel like rushing through stuff, you end up just making so many more mistakes than I would have if I just take a moment and like stop and breathe and just like really figure out like what's the intent and purpose of what I'm trying to do, you know? And so that really helps too. So
Yeah, for sure. There's
yeah.
and then anybody that I see that's like a master at something that I would consider to be a master at something, you can learn everything. Like you could like do the dang USB like data transfer, whatever. Like you could hear and
Oh
like learn everything they know. But then even with that, it takes time for like your body to catch up with your mind. It
yes.
takes time for like
Yes.
your hand, like there's a friend I have who's a phenomenal roller skater. It's a beast.
Hmm.
And anytime I watch him skate, I'm just like, what in the world is this? Like, this is unreal. And he'll go
Love
and
that.
teach me. He will teach me exactly what he reminds me kind of like it's like on some Karate Kid type vibes. Cause like, he'll be like,
Yes.
how do I fight? And he's like, take off your jacket, put on the jacket, take off your jacket. And
Yeah.
like he'll have me over there like doing these drills. And
Yeah.
and nowadays I can understand that like okay he's teaching me these things not to avoid teaching me what it is but like he's teaching me foundation, he's teaching me what he practiced that over time helped him do the
Yeah.
thing, but it's like
Yeah. He's teaching you how to fish. He's the it's the like old saying where it's like if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. And I feel
yeah
like that's the like that's the like teaching you to fish kind of thing where you're like, oh, okay, cool, like I'll be able to use this in any other thing, like yeah, that's sick, man. Like
yeah
I love. Yeah, and I feel like it comes with a certain level of maturity and patience to understand that's like what it is. I think that's why like like Karate Kid works so well
hmm
because the whole time you're just like, oh, what the hell is this old man teaching me? Like this is so stupid. Like wax on, wax off, jacket on, jacket off. This is so stupid. And
hmm
then I remember just that point in like the original Karate Kid where like Daniel because he's like crashing out on Mr. Miyagi and all that stuff. And he's just like, you're not teaching me anything. Like, these dudes are gonna whoop my ass. Like, da da da. Just like, all right, cool. Like, like trying to punch me. And he's just like, yeah, like wax on, wax off. Like, boom, boom, boom. And he's like, no, I'm teaching you the techniques. I'm helping you build the muscle memory and all that stuff. And like, like this is how you apply it, kind of thing. And so,
yep
and, I think that's also just like crucial with art too. Like, I was talking to someone and I was just like, you know, that's like such a next level of art is like beyond just learning the like foundational stuff because I know that's the thing that everyone always tells you and you're like I want to learn art and they're like well you gotta learn the foundation and you're like that's cool but like I think what we should tell people is you have to learn the foundation of like how to do art like like perspective volume shape and all that stuff but that's like only part one. You have to learn how to apply it and when to apply it and all that stuff. And the only way you can do that is by doing
yep
and like, and finishing things and evaluating and figuring it out, like what worked, what didn't work, and like where did I fall short and stuff. And so,
yeah
yeah,
definitely it's like one of those things you really want to master things to the level at which you can express yourself freely. Like I
yeah,
think that's the to me I think for any uh creative like outlet for the person on the road to mastery. I think if you can learn the rules and the techniques well enough to be able to express yourself fully. I think if you are trying to express yourself and you're still finding trouble in doing certain things that it prevents you from being able to like tell this story to the full extent. If you're like, man,
yeah,
I really want to be able to like have my characters, in like on a motorcycle night race like Akira, but I suck at perspective. I suck at buildings. And it's like, okay, well then that's like the thing that you need to be able to
Right?
like work on. And I think that's like the direction of it all. It's like being able to be like free, like
Yes.
free to do whatever, to make whatever that you want to. And I think once you've gotten to that point, I think that's like that once you've learned the fundamentals, like that level 2 that you mentioned before is
Yeah.
like trying to go towards full self-expression. If you can
Yeah.
if you can get to a point where you're like, I can draw anything. And it's not even to say that like you can't, like, because sometimes you might need a reference because you haven't seen, like, if you have to all of a sudden draw like a platypus. I haven't seen a platypus in a long. I've never seen one in person, and I haven't seen a picture of one in a long time. So I'm like, I may not
Right.
know how to draw platypus like right off the top of my head, but seeing a picture of it, I'll be able to break it down and be able to like draw whatever the thing is. And I think if you can get
Exactly.
to like that particular point, I think that's when you like, that's when the game starts.
Yes. No, I think that's when it's like gets fun and all that stuff. I feel like like to me, I think that's like kind of learning how to just like understanding like how you like why you're working out and all that stuff when you're just like, oh wow, yeah, like this is how you do these things. And I feel like it's so much easier to learn how to apply things when you understand the purpose of why you're trying to apply it. Like when you're like, all right, like I want to draw this platypus, but like I don't want to draw it super like realistic or whatever. Like sure, even if you draw it realistic, you need to learn how to like break it down. But then I feel like once you know how to break stuff down, you're like, okay, I can like play around with proportions and like, I can just like make the bill a bit bigger or like make the head smaller because I want to like convey these ideas, and, applying this knowledge and all that stuff based off of the foundations that I've learned, like, or, kind of thing.
Hmm.
So it's like, there's always like another level and different ways to do it. And I feel like you hit it right on the head when you're talking about like freedom of self-expression. That's like the goal, right? We all want to draw the things that we're picturing in our heads and whatnot. I think that's like, that's the that's the real Moby Dick, like white whale that we're chasing, where you're like, oh, I'm trying to convey this idea or this like character or this thing. It's like as like pure as I see it in my head or like whatever. And oh, it's great. It's what makes art fun, you know?
Yep. Yep. It's that chase, that grind, just the progress over time. I can even think about like whenever I was drawing as a kid and what you had
Yeah.
in your head is completely different from what was actually on the paper.
Right?
But then as you improve, like that gap starts to just like shorten and shorten, and it's always just a little bit more. I don't think you'll ever quite get exactly there.
Yep.
Maybe in certain instances you might catch it exactly like how you thought. But yeah, just being able to like close that gap, I think is really important. And then even with the mastery over time, it it let me realize that like there's a lot of things that I was wanting to also have that level at, but then it's
Hmm.
like to know that I have to put the time in for it. It's not like, oh, I'm just gonna all of a sudden just be really good at cooking. It's like you have to get to that level. It's gonna take time. You can read the best book there is, but it's gonna take time for you to actually like practice it and learn it.
Yeah.
And so it made me want to start just placing bricks on every little facet that I wanted to. So then like, no, I'm not gonna be the the MJ of whatever this new thing is, but over time I'll be like 10 years from now or whatever, I might be nice at it because I just kept with it the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, that's the dream. It's like, it's like just learning that like you're gonna be the best you can be. I think that's such a you know I feel like it's the lifelong pursuit of being an artist that people don't. understand now, or people are forgetting because and all that stuff. I feel like I can't be like people don't understand it today as we're literally just talking about it like right now. But like that's it. Like I love that pursuit. Like I feel like I'm learning to just like embrace that pursuit and really kind of understand that there's no like wrong way to pursue that. Like, like and just being okay with it and having like the self assured that like where I end up is exactly where I probably wanted to be as long as I keep working at it. And if I'm not where I want to be, that means I'm still working at it. And so I just keep going. Like, you know. And like I said, and I think it also just helps too that you just caught me on a good day. If you asked me like tomorrow, I'd be like, oh, art's pain, everything sucks. Oh, you just caught me on like a one day where I'm like really optimistic and really hopeful and just like feeling really self assured. I just came back from vacation. I'm like, y'all can't tell me nothing, bro. Like, I'm out there just like, just like go out there, go do my drills, like go be the best me I can be. I'm really looking forward to like ending this year on a high note. You know,
Mhm.
I want to look back at 2025 and be like, the world was on fire, and damn, like I made some good art. I said some things that I felt were worth saying. You know,
For
I made some
sure.
things that are worth people's time, that kind of thing. So
For sure. For sure. How would you tell somebody, or how would you advise somebody to embrace that pursuit? I know a lot of people who want it now, especially with like,
yeah,
I like to blame social media in times like this
yeah,
because they give you all
always,
the satisfaction immediately, and nobody wants to work for anything anymore. And even whenever I find days where I'm on social media a whole lot, it makes me like subtly more impatient in just
yeah,
daily life. And you want the things now. You see everybody killing it. You see like, you go and look at skate videos online. And you're like, dang, like the person's killing it. Or you go on YouTube and you watch,
yeah,
this artist do his thing, and it's like, dang, that's crazy. I want that now. And there's times where like I go to the rink, I do the best I can. I am still not there. It just be like that. I'm trying my
yeah,
best. I'm breaking a sweat. I'm huffing and puffing. I'm trying my best. I'm not there yet. And it's
yeah,
frustrating. And like some people can't some people can't sit with that. And like how would you advise somebody to be able to like tough it through those times?
yeah. Oh man, I feel like you know as someone who's like dealt with that kind of stuff, and so I feel like I just kind of had to get like I said, to a mindset where I feel like failure doesn't mean the end. Failure or like like not like things not working the way I wanted to. It's just like an opportunity for me to grow. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like easier said than done. It's something I'm not saying like I'm like, oh, like I failed immediately, and I'm like, this is a moment to grow. Like I said, it takes a moment. Like you gotta process this shit. Like it's just emotions. Like, but at the end of the day, I always try to like, what's that? Figure out how. How do I keep going? Like how do I figure this out? Like, and if I just like fail, if I don't do things the way I wanted, or like if things didn't work out the way they should have, or I feel like I'm not where I'm at, I have to remind myself that I'm like okay, this is just part of the step. Like, like just like easily, like how it is. Like sometimes when you're just walking down the street, you just fucking trip.
Mm-hmm.
That's life, bro. Like, it's not like I'm like, oh, I tripped. I'm never gonna fucking walk again. Like, I guess I'm done walking. Like, oops, I misstepped. Like, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, well, I should look at why I tripped. Like, was it because my shoe was untied? Was it because I didn't see something that was on the ground? Did I just like misjudge like where the step was or whatever? Was I looking at my phone too much? Or like, and so it's like there's ways to fix that, but it's not like I'm like, well, walking's done unless I like hurt myself tragically or whatever. That's a different scenario. That's like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ifs and buts and whatnot. But I always feel like it's just like yeah, you just you have to keep reminding yourself, like if life's like an arcade, you got to keep putting quarters in it sometimes to continue. Like that's just the way it is. You just like you know, but like until you give up, it means that you can keep going and all that stuff. Like I guess to keep the metaphor going. Like until you stop putting quarters in that machine, then like just give it another try if you want to, like whatnot. So
That's real.
this is hey, that's my one for this. So like,
Yeah.
like yeah,
I think that's, I mean, and that's real. Like, and then you even hear, you ever listen to the masters of whatever talk
yeah,
about their journey to mastery, their journey to where they are. They always talk, the first thing they talk about is all the long days of just repetition or
mhm,
failure or just like trying it again and again and
yeah,
again. And a lot of times those people are where they are just because they didn't stop. Like a lot
yeah,
of times, because you'll even hear about people that'll be like, oh yeah, and like my brother, like he was even better than me at the game, or he
mhm,
was even, my older sister could draw even better than I could, but she just fell off earlier, like she stopped earlier than I did, and like I just never stopped. And it's like a lot of
yeah,
times if you don't stop, you literally can't lose. Can't like
exactly,
you'll
yeah,
get there.
exactly. It's like you'll win eventually, and then like that kind of thing. And like I think about that a lot too. Like I think about like growing up in Texas and like all my friends who are also into like cartoons and stuff. And I think about it like I'm like, man, I'm the only one out of like that group of people who's like doing the thing. And it's probably just because I was just too stupid to like give up, you know? Like even if it took me like even if I went like the long way to getting to that point, I still was just like always working on things, always writing, always drawing, always whatever, Like and yeah, that's it. You just gotta keep going. Yeah, you just pick yourself back up, keep going. It's like that Rocky speech, where it's like it's not about how hard life knocks you down. It's about how hard you can get knocked down and keep getting back up and keep going, keep fighting, and stuff. And that's like easier said than done in a world of instant like gratification. Where like I think about that a lot. Like with AI, that's like what that is. It's like no one's fighting, no one's hungry. You're just like, oh, I had this idea, I'm gonna do it. And then you don't even have control over the outcome most of the time. It's like so like you know what I mean. Like I feel
Mhm.
like if you're hungry enough, if you want to do something enough, you'll practice it. Like if you want to get good at guitar, you'll keep playing, you'll keep playing, and you'll keep doing the thing, that stuff. And I'm not saying you'll be some like master guitarist, but at the same time, too, that's not what you're really shooting to do. You're just shooting to play guitar to a level that you feel satisfied with, like and that's it. And like, you know, I think at that point, they like you can't lose until you give up. So
Yep.
that's it. You know. And like I said, this is very much like, blank statements and like or blank statements about like, things that, when you're trying to make art on a professional level, it gets a bit more complicated because you're not just doing it for like your own self exploration. You're doing it to pay your bills too. And so, there's a bit of reality that can make you give up and all that stuff. But I feel that like if you're an artist, that like even if you can't do it as like a full time thing, you'll still make stuff anyways. Like even when I had like an office job, I still learned it like made art and all that stuff on the side. Like I wait till it's like, if I got up at 5, it'd be 5:01 and it'd be like pencils like up, let's go, let's like draw, like let's do the thing, kind of thing. Like I remember working the office job during the like first year of the pandemic and I would have like videos lined up for me to watch. So as soon as I had like a free moment, I'd be like, all right, cool. I'm watching this video, like I'm doing this thing, I'm pursuing this thing, I'm like gonna read this book, I'm gonna draw this thing, kind of a thing. And I just didn't give up, and I just kept making stuff and whatnot.
Here.
Yeah, exactly. And I still know I got a long way to go, and I'm looking forward to walking on that stuff. I know I'm going to trip, but I feel like in the most like shown in protagonist way, I feel very fortunate that I have like really good friends and a good community They're like, I know, like when I trip and I feel like giving up, they're gonna be like, "No, AJ, I want Takeout Kings. You great, give me my goddamn comic," and I'll be like, "Oh, you're right. Let me get back up." Like I still got some fight in me. You like, and just keep going. And so, cause it's like I do the same thing for them whenever they're feeling down and whatnot. And I'll be like, "Yo, 15 bars, like 16 bars. I want it right now. Like, I want to hear your sad story. I want to hear the rhymes, boy. Like, goddamn, yeah. Like,
Yeah,
you know. So,
for sure. It's time. Like it's. I think that's what like being a really good friend in that sense is. It's just like taking
mm,
turns holding each other's despair. It's just like,
yeah,
oh, this is never gonna get finished, or like, oh, this is terrible, or I'm trash, or
yeah.
I'm whatever, like whatever sort of negative self talk you have. Um, the person that's able to like still hold faith in you even whenever you don't have faith in you.
Yeah, that's invaluable, man. Because, I feel like we all see stuff in each other that, like, we as an individual cannot see in ourselves. And I love that. Like, it's like a good reminder where you're just like, oh yeah, this is how I'm presenting to other people. This is how I'm doing this thing. And they're just like, no, AJ, you're funny. Like, keep going. Like, there's been plenty of times as I'm working on Takeout Kings, I'm like, I can't tell if this joke is funny anymore. And I'll send it to like a friend who I know is a funny person, and we'll be like, AJ, this is not funny. And he'll read it and he'll be like, no, AJ, this is solid. This is funny. It's like I laugh. Like this joke in particular made me laugh. I'll be like, oh thank God. Like like you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing, yeah, I think it's good to have friends and people around you who you can like, I feel like the word I would use is being the heavy and whatnot. That's like something my grandfather used to say. And essentially, I guess in like more layman terms, it's like you gotta find people who can be your tank. Some people who can just like, you know, deal with the heavy shit with you sometimes and help hold you up and help push you through and all that stuff, like help pull you up, that kind of thing. And I think that's like it's great. I feel like that's like the best parts about having friends and that kind of thing. So
Able to do that. Being able to do that for each other is like, I mean, that's key to the success. And
yeah.
even man, Dan will tell me this all the time. He'll say,
Hmm.
he's like, even if you don't, he's like, even if I don't believe in myself, I believe in the version that you believe in.
Mm.
And that's like,
Yeah.
because he's like, well, I mean, I don't see it, but he sees it, so I'm gonna just believe in whatever he says real quick,
Yeah.
until I can see it again.
That's the famous like Gurren Lagann line, like don't believe in the you who doesn't believe in you, believe in the me who believes in you, kind of
Mm,
thing. Like I love that mindset. It's just like yeah, like sometimes if you don't see it, like somebody does and whatnot. And I feel like it's just like a good reminder. And sometimes you just gotta like fake it till you make it. Like sometimes you gotta just like believing yourself until you realize, or like fake believing in yourself until you do. And then just like you're like, oh wait, yeah, I am like doing a thing. I think it goes back to like not giving up and just like keep pursuing and whatnot. So and like just not listening to that self doubt in your head. So
it's everything.
it is. It really is.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you feel like we should have talked about? Did we step over
And
anything?
I don't think so. I feel like we talked about like a lot of good stuff. Like, like I feel like we've like bounced around in a really good way, but I don't know. Is there anything you feel like we like have missed out on? I don't know. Should we like ask the audience? See if they're like you guys didn't talk about this thing.
How
Ah,
dare you?
like
Let's see.
how dare you?
Um, looking at the chat, I don't see any questions. If you guys have any questions, real quick, go ahead and throw them in the chat, and we can run through them. I'll give them a few minutes to get some questions in. But nah, I think we've gotten. I think the fact that there is no questions is a testament to us being able to get through a lot of the topics thoroughly. So
Yeah, I mean, this has been like a good ass chat. Like,
Yeah, it's been
like
great.
this is real great. Like, so it was just like unsurprising. I feel like we, like off camera, have like such good conversations. You know what I mean? So, I feel very fortunate to be on this and just like being able to talk about stuff and just like hopefully articulate myself in a way that makes sense to people and all that stuff. But I always feel like if anyone has any questions ever, like find me online. I will answer your questions and to the best of my ability. So
I think that people will definitely be able to take away many good gems from this because he was just dropping them.
that's
And like,
good. That's good. Yeah, like I always feel like I'm like, are these gems or am I just like delusional? And I'm just like, yo, guys, you gotta just keep on going, just keep working on stuff. And everyone's like, AJ, no, that's unhealthy. That's not the way. Like so, but
oh no,
I
no,
hope
that's the
so. I hope,
cost. I
yeah,
think that's the cost. That's the cost for that kind of thing. That's why there's not as many people who are like the best because they're willing to like not everybody's willing to do what it takes to be at that level. You know what I mean? So like sometimes it is
yeah,
unhealthy to get to a specific place, but it's what it is. I mean,
yeah,
that's what it calls for sometimes. You think about even if we go to like, to the shonen manga, references, like if you think about like Naruto and
oh yeah,
how he's learning how to, whenever he had to learn how to do the Rasen Shuriken. And they were like, "Oh, it's gonna
yeah,
take years." He's like, "I'll do it in 15 minutes." You're like, "What?" And he made like mad clones, and he was trying, and he
right,
passed out immediately. That wasn't healthy. He shouldn't have, but he did it, and like that's what it cost him. And I think
right,
that's what yeah, I think that's the whole thing where it's like sometimes it's not gonna be, optimal, but
hmm,
you can still moderate it and tailor it to make sure that you don't like, you know, seriously hurt yourself. But I think that
right,
it does take, a healthy amount of stress sometimes to be able to get to a specific point. You got to push yourself. You got to challenge yourself in order to grow.
exactly, exactly. And I feel like anything I've said tonight, audience, like literally take with the proper grains of salt and all that stuff. And also sees it to like how it works for you. Like, this is just my own experience and where I'm at in this current moment. Like I said, I might be on here like a year from now or whatever. I'm like, no, give up always. Like that's the only thing to do. Like the only way I've moved forward is I've given up. All that stuff. We were talking about like in the very beginning of this. It's just like, you get advice, you get these lessons, and you have to learn how to apply them to a way that works well for you and where you're currently at. I feel like something I've learned as I'm getting older is that it's always good to like revisit things and lessons as you get older. You got a bit more experience on you, got a bit more on the gut, and then being like, all right, cool. This is like how this is what I'm learning from this lesson again. Like I feel like sometimes you can relearn stuff or like reapproach how you learned this lesson or like reflect on this lesson and all that stuff. And that's always good. I always feel like you have to come at a certain level humble and a certain level just like wanting to improve and all that stuff. I feel like you guys have the desire. Don't ever get lazy. Don't take anything for granted. So
Yeah, man. Like I remember seeing a video of somebody talking about entitlement in people
mm,
and it was so interesting and it kind of put things in a like it shifted my perspective on it all. Where you'll see a lot of things on social media where they're like, "Oh, like, you deserve to be happy and you deserve to have the best of this and this." And he's like, "Who's saying that? Who's saying that you deserve these different things?" And it's not to say that like you don't, but it's like you're not just entitled to all of the best things in life just because like sometimes you do have to actually put forth like effort and time and like to be able to acquire and maintain these things that people want. And especially for like in this aspect he was talking about like with relationships and things where it's like, oh, I get to act however I want to act, but I still deserve a partner who does this and this and this and this. And he's like, how do you get to be whoever you want to be, but then get somebody who is perfect? And it's like it doesn't always work that way. It's
Right.
a cost.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, yeah, I feel, oh man, relationships. I always feel like when it comes to relationships, you have to find somebody who you want to grow with, and the way that like applies to art to keep it like topical, it's that like you have to be willing to grow with your art. I feel
Mm.
like that's such a thing. Like, if you want to be the best, you're gonna have to grow. I feel like you're not just gonna pop out perfect and all that stuff. And you have to be willing to allow yourself to grow and grow with your art and understand like where it's going and why it's going, where it's going, and stuff. So I
Hmm.
think like I keep going, like
That's an
keep growing.
interesting topic. So then, if that's the case, how
Yeah.
has how have you grown with Takeout Kings, and how has Takeout Kings grown with you? And how long have you been
Oh,
at this?
oh man, I've been at this like I feel like Takeout Kings. I've been at it for like in this iteration of it has at least probably been like I want to say like 5 years ish. Like I feel like well like there's probably like a couple iterations before that, but like I feel like currently where I'm at, it's been like just kind of like last like 2 or 3 years where it became like Takeout Kings proper and not something else. But a lot of what I've learned is like to grow into is just kind of grow into myself and like be a bit more fearless, not be like, oh, this is too weird, oh, this is too whatever. It goes back to like the president's a dog. Don't question it too much. Like people will like it the way you present it, as long as you present it confidently and you know that this is what you want and stuff like that. And so that's like really just where I've been at. I'm just like, no, like I'm cooking over here. I'm becoming more self assured. Like I'm like growing into being like, yeah, like this idea is good. This stuff is funny. This is interesting and whatnot. And the only way I've been able to get to that point is by making it and doing it and like materializing it and all that stuff. And so,
Mm, dang, that's real. Dang. Like I normally I'm wanting to I'm
yeah,
just like digesting what you're saying. Like, I was trying to find words to respond, but I really just wanted to like
yeah,
digest what you said there, because that's real. And then I'm
yeah.
sure that over time you've also seen your work get louder and prouder and more confident as
Oh,
well.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's something like even like my mentor and stuff like that's been like noticing too. It's just like, yeah, like you're just like your art's becoming more you and just like, the way you're like expressing it, it's like really starting to come out. And I feel like it's just like kind of just like I said, being that fearless, like being like understanding that like that fear comes from a certain place of like realness. Like, like I'm not saying like I'm like, oh man, like I know that if I am trying to like if I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is the thing, or like, oh, I'm worried, like, oh, I'm excited, like I'm worried how people are gonna feel. I'm like, oh, it's probably coming from a real place and all that stuff. Because like when I don't care, I'm just like whatever, like I don't care, like it's like
Because you're
uh,
still
you
in
know,
because you're like
yeah,
you're enjoying what you're making, and you're doing it
exactly,
for the input. You're doing it just because this idea needs to see the light of day, and not, I just want people to like it. It's more so, if they like it, great. If not,
yeah,
fine. But it's like
yes,
I need to do this for me. And and that
exactly.
part, when you have that, I mean, it doesn't matter what else. It doesn't matter who says what, because you got it solid within yourself.
Exactly. And it's just like you know what I mean? Like it's like really good whenever you can just stand by like you can make something you can stand by it and you're like, well, I did the best in my ability in this current moment, you know. And if it feels like it failed and it came out short and it's like work for doing again, you can always just redo it. There's no one's gonna like be like, oh, I can't believe you redid Takeout Kings, AJ, and all that stuff because I'll just be like, well, That's my fucking choice. I decided to do it. Like that's my thing, you know? And all that stuff. But I feel like you can't just like live in fear that like it's not gonna be good. You know, you have to like be confident in your own abilities and make things and just like like say it with your chest because like you're from the south, so you understand that statement too. You like just say it with your chest. It's like 10 toes down. Just be about you because like no one else is gonna stand up for you louder than you will for yourself, like at a certain point, like even though we talked about how great it is to have friends who can like push and motivate you and pick you up, but at the end of the day, you're still got to be able to do that yourself. You still got to be able to dig in deep and keep making things and keep doing stuff and keep wanting to be the best, like, or being not being the best, being the best that you can be, being the best, like, Cam, or AJ, or whoever that you can be, like, instead of trying to be someone else, because you're always going to come up short. If you try to be the next, like, MJ, you're always going to come up short trying to be someone else, but you'll always eventually make it trying to just be yourself.
Yep.
I feel like so.
Yep. Dang, man. I like that.
Yeah, I feel like if anyone takes anything out of this, like be confident, be who you are. Like, I want to see people just really expressing themselves. I want to see people really trying to connect and they're really trying to say things. And like I don't want to be some old man yelling at the clouds, being like, no one's trying to connect nowadays. No one's trying to do that because I still think that people are. And I still see those connections, whether or not they're coming out in the healthiest of ways is like, that's next podcast episode, like that's not, we got the time for that tonight, but I do think that like, it is great hearing people and like seeing people who are doing it, who are succeeding, and like making real connections with people and stuff like that. Like I love that shit. Like that's what I want to do. I want people to look at my art and be like, yeah, like like I said, I got that frog card and I gave it to my girl because she really likes frogs, and you know, like oh, we broke up, but I also memory of like, oh, we're together and whatever, like I'm glad to play like a small part in someone else's life, because those things add up. Those things are great, you know.
Yep. Yep. Just like the building blocks towards mastery, man. It's like everything. It's just
Exactly.
and just piece by piece, brick by brick.
Exactly. I'm just playing my small part that I can so that like we can just keep moving forward as a people, And so
Man. Man. Well, shoot. I mean, I think that's a great place to put a pin in it. Like I
sounds
think
good.
that's a
Yeah.
great sentiment and it's something that's like you can just kind of echo off, and that can be
Yeah.
that thing that people can kind of just sit on as they continue on through the day or through the night. Man, I really enjoy having you on this podcast, and
And
I feel like we've explored so many good topics. And I mean, every time we
yeah.
talk, we always get into just we 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 have conversations not in back and forth, but more so like we put one thing on the table and we just try to like pick at the same thing and explore a concept. And it
Yeah.
was really nice being able to do that here, and even
And,
just learning more about who you are as a designer and like and
oh,
your background, your upbringing, and just being able to learn more about myself and my craft through you. I mean, it was really nice to be able to do this. So I appreciate you for coming on today.
oh man, the pleasure is all mine, bro. Like I said, I feel like we've been so lucky that I feel like since the first time I met you, we've just like instantly connected. Like it was just like one of those things, like, it was like, hey, here's my boy Cam, and we're immediately just having like, a great conversation. So like I feel like being able to come on here and talk about things and just explore stuff and whatnot, it's been like such a pleasure. Like, I always am just like I'm awe seeing like the growth and amazingness and just like willingness to explore stuff that you do. Like it's always exciting. So like when you were like, oh, I'm doing a podcast, I was just like, let's go. This is gonna be so good. Like, and then you told me the concept behind it, and I was like, let's go. Like, like, so like, for me, it's been such a pleasure. It's been nice to articulate things that I feel like I really haven't articulated and all that stuff. And, you know, I'm always literally just anytime you need someone to hop on this thing, you want me on here, just hit me up. Like I'm down. Like if I have the time, I'm here for it. Like it's
Yeah.
always a pleasure, man. Like
Yeah, definitely want
yeah.
to have you on here for another episode. I think even just to learn more about the progressions of Takeout Kings, and
Oh
just
yes.
when people can have it in their hands or just see it and read it online. I think they'll, that's enough to talk about in itself.
Oh man, I am you have no idea how excited I am to like for that day. You know what I mean? I'll just be like, look at this, and we'll be like, let's talk about it. Like that's gonna be a fun day. Like like we're all gonna speak that into power. We're gonna do that later this year, everyone, for all the people watching. So look forward to that. So
Fire. Is there
yeah.
anywhere can you give us a good outro so that people can know where to find you, where to support you, and yeah, how to get in
Mhm.
contact with you?
Yes. Okay. So I guess like while we're in the social media diaspora of like everything on fire, you can find me on Instagram. That's probably the best place to find me at AJ has art here. Is all one word. And I think I'm on Blue Sky under. You think I have this already up myself, but yeah, I'm on Blue Sky every once in a while, but and that's like AJ, like AYEJAY, uh,
Mhm.
on Blue Sky, and I think those are really the best places and all that stuff. Hopefully you'll see me like next time we're on here. I'll have like a better hub and whatnot, but yeah, it's like Instagram, Blue Sky right now. So
What was your? Can you remind me how to spell your Blue Sky username?
yeah, AYEJAY. So it's AJ, but like
Hey,
phonetically. So
hey, Jay.
AJ, yeah.
Do you have a website?
Yes. AJHoward.art.
Or cool. And then one more thing too, I'd like to know who
Mhm.
who would you like to see on the podcast in the
Oh
future?
man.
Do you
Oh
have any
man.
nominations?
Yes. Really, I feel like the very like short, but it would be short for people on here, but long for you would be like anyone that's like an art chat. I feel like all of them, like my boy Ernesto, Nick Wynn, Ty Goodwin. I'm looking at you, Ty. Are you gonna be on here? Uh, Deshaun Mahone, um, Danny Haynes. I feel like I'm like doing that like hip hop award things where I'm like, I want to like thank my boys, like, aka Ty, aka Nick, uh, my homegirl Kira. Like, the list it would be so long that the episode of this episode would double in length. But there's no church list for me. Just hit me up, like. But
No, that's
yeah,
definitely I mean, that's exactly what I was looking for. I'm looking for you to just put up people who you think will be a good fit. Like since you've been through this episode and you know what it's
yeah.
like, who else would you like to see on this platform? And so definitely trying to get Ty on here. I know he's busy with a couple of things right now, but trying to get it
Mm-hmm.
in the works. And yeah, I'm
Oh,
gonna
it's gonna
reach out to
happen. It's gonna happen.
them.
Like that man is so. Ah, he's gonna have some good stuff. That's gonna be a good episode. Like tune in, people. Like tune in to every episode of this, but especially that Thai one. I'm telling you, that's gonna be the one.
He
So
gonna drop some keys.
yeah, exactly, bro. So
Cool, man. Well, this has been a pleasure once again.
all right, yeah. Have a good night, everyone. This was really fun. It's really great.
Yeah,
So,
man. I appreciate you once again. But all right, man. We'll catch you later. You be safe out there.
You too, man.
Thank you so much for watching the episode. One of my favorite things about doing this podcast is hearing about when someone resonates with something we said. It's truly the reason I continue to make these happen. Comment down below what stuck with you, and we can continue the discussion further. Also consider liking and subscribing. It helps me bring in more amazing creatives and helps me make this show better for you all every episode. Catch y'all next week.